Kelly and Robert Burough are suing their former friends, Marina and David Quadra, for illegal eviction and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy.
Have a seat, everybody.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2072, Burough versus Quadra.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Quadra, you were living in a home, in a house?
Correct, a townhome.
That you didn't own. And for how long had you been renting that home?
We did not rent out the home.
How long, if you didn't own it, then you were renting it?
We rented it for 2 years, Your Honor.
It gets scarier if you have a fixed position in your head so that you're not listening to my questions. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did your lease start?
July of 2020.
And when was it to terminate?
It was terminated August 1st, 2022.
And it was terminated by an eviction?
Correct.
And you were evicted because the landlord said that you sublet the apartment to these people and their family?
Correct.
And they were people who you knew, both in the military?
Just him.
What do you do?
I'm a federal employee.
And you?
I'm active duty, ma'am.
But you knew each other from work?
Correct.
Where did you move in August?
National City, Your Honor.
How far is that from your prior residence?
It's about 30 miles south, Your Honor.
Are you in a home that you own or that you rent?
We are still renting.
How much are you paying in rent?
$21.50 a month.
You have a signed lease?
We do.
When did that lease start?
August 1st, 2022.
And why did you choose to live in National City?
It is closer to where he is stationed.
It is also the...
Don't speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much closer?
To his job.
To his job?
It went from a 30-minute drive to a 15-minute drive.
Okay, so that's better.
Correct.
You were evicted. You were served a notice of eviction on what date?
They let us know a month before August. They gave us a 30-day notice.
Now, did the plaintiffs have any furniture in the home that you were evicted from?
Prior to us being evicted, yes.
Yes, prior to your being evicted. And what furniture did they have?
2 dressers and a bunk bed.
Anything else?
That's as far as furniture.
And what furniture did you have in there prior to being evicted?
A full living room.
And when did you move that out? On what date?
The 30th of July, 2 days before our moving date.
So you moved out all of your furniture?
Correct.
And how much were you paying in rent in the place from which you were evicted?
$25.95.
Oh, I didn't write that down. How much were you paying in the new place?
The place we are in now, $21.50.
So you're paying less rent?
Correct. It's substantially smaller.
And substantially closer to his place of employment?
Correct.
Good. Now, do you want to tell me your version of how they came to be living in your house?
We received a call one night. It was very late, 10 p.m. Robert was very upset, crying. He had nowhere to go.
He?
Correct. Robert had nowhere to go, and Kelly was asking for a divorce. He asked if he could crash on the couch. We have a toddler at home, so I asked him to sleep in our guest bedroom instead of the couch.
Okay.
He stayed that first original night, and the next day he needed to job hunt as he was jobless. We offered to watch his child. He looked for the job and he came home. He asked us if he could stay for a while in that guest bedroom until he got onto his feet with the job. He offered money to just help out with utilities and
How much?
$1,000.
$1,000 a month?
No, just 1,000. And our words, when he had asked, and we asked him, how long do you think it will take you to get on your feet? It was just a couple weeks.
Okay, so he was offering $1,000.
Correct.
Which was 40% of your rent to stay for 2 weeks, to stay in your guest bedroom. Mm-hmm. Pretty decent. Did he give you the $1,000?
He did.
And he gave you the $1,000 on what date?
He gave us the $1,000 on May 29th.
And when did he start staying there?
He started staying with us May 21st.
Then what happened?
He stayed with us for about a week. Everything was okay. He job hunted. I helped with the child. Within this week, he...
Look at me.
I'm sorry. He confided in us that he wanted to work on his marriage with Kelly. He did not want the divorce. It was something that she had asked for. They wanted to work on it together and had asked if Kelly could come around to stay with him and the children and work on their marriage.
When he moved into the guest room, did he take the children? Did he have the children with him?
He did, but it was just on certain nights. They were sharing.
And then he asked if Kelly could come as well.
Correct.
The wife. And what did you say? Why couldn't he go home?
He could not go home due to their relationship with her parents. Their parents.
Oh, she was living with her parents.
Correct.
And they were both living with her parents.
Correct.
So he said, I can't go home. We want to work on the marriage. Could we come and stay here with you?
Correct.
They have 2 kids?
They have 3.
They have 3 kids, and how many dogs?
4.
4 dogs. So far, you get 4 stars if you let her come.
I wish it would have worked that way.
No. You don't understand that that's where I'm at so far.
Yeah, of course.
So now, May 29th, he gives you the $1,000. She moves in when with the dogs?
So we had a long trip planned to Vegas. We let them know that after we had left, she could come stay while we were gone.
What month? June?
June, correct.
How long were you away?
We were away for 5 to 6 days.
Well, what was he going to do when she came there with the 4 dogs, 3 kids after 6 days? What was the plan?
This was never a plan of, here's a lease agreement you are going to rent from us. It was
that's
just
not my
I need
question.
somewhere to stay. Can they please come for this short period of time until we figure this out?
Great. Okay, now let me hear your version of the events. When you went to stay there with your children, you were having trouble with your wife.
It's incorrect.
Incorrect.
Caption coming up.
What I said was, because I believe her. I believe that you called her and said exactly what she said. She told me. I mean, I didn't have to have Whitney read it back. I believe that that's what you said. So I don't want to hear baloney about school districts. You were having trouble with your wife.
And later today,
You can't have it both ways.
It's a
Ms. Dion.
complicated case.
It's not complicated. It's very simple. You didn't have a written contract. If you had an oral contract, that's one thing.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kelly, Robert, Marina, and David.
Kelly and Robert Burough claim their former friends, Marina and David Quadra, owe for an illegal eviction. Marina and David are countersuing, saying Kelly and Robert caused them to be evicted.
So when you went to their house and you wanted to work on your marriage, you could have gone back to your in-laws.
Yes, that's correct.
You could have. Why didn't you?
The reason why we decided to split up was because we're trying to keep our kids in the same school district. So with having 4 dogs, that's impossible to keep in an HOA. So she decided to go with her parents. I decided to stay back to finish the school year with the kids, still being in May, so they can finish in the same school district. That's why I decided I needed a mailing address so that they could stay in the same school district.
So you mean this discussion that she just said to me about you having problems, marital problems with your wife, that never happened?
Irrelevant. It's just...
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, because I believe her. I believe that that's what happened. I believe that you called her and said exactly what she said. She told me. I mean, I didn't have to have Whitney read it back. I believe that that's what you said. So I don't want to hear baloney about school districts. You were having trouble with your wife.
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
And you didn't tell her that.
We had been moved out of our old place of 6 years in 𝐂𝐚𝐬, and we were trying for 6 months to find a new place. So yes, it does put a lot of stress on a relationship, but we did not have any marital...
Mr. Burrows, you know what my strong suit is, and there's no question that the cameras just caught your face. My strong suit is being able to spot a lie from a mile away. And I'm telling you that there's no question that you called her late at night and said, I'm having trouble with my wife. She asked me for a divorce. Can I come and stay with you? There's no question that whether it was true or not, I don't know, because clearly you're a liar. So maybe it wasn't true, but that's what you told her.
Your Honor, may I speak?
You want me to call your parents?
Please do.
Would you like me to call your parents? I'm just asking you, would you like me to call your parents?
No.
Of course not. That's an easy thing for me to do.
Part of what was going on was that we lived in our home for 6 years, and the homeowners had moved back in, and so they asked us to leave, and we had been actively searching for a home. So yes, it did put a bit of a strain on our marriage, and I took my dogs with me so that I can keep my operating business at my parents' house, because I am a dog boarder, dog sitter, and I did not want to shut my business down. And during this time, tensions, little things happening at my parents' house. So I said, you need to go see if you can rent a room or find somebody that can help you in the meantime till we can actively keep searching for a place for our family. We tried 5 different homes and we didn't.
I don't care. What I said to your husband was he lied to me. Because there's no question that he called, and whether it was true or not, that he said to your friends, I need a place to go. Do you have a place that I could stay on the couch? There's no question he said that to her.
That is true. Yes, that is true.
Okay, well, then I want you to introduce your husband to the truth.
Is it true?
It's something that he hasn't met, because that's not what he told me what happened.
Correct.
So that was a mistake of his. That was a mistake. And you know what happens when you lied to me once? Your case is dismissed. Because what you're suing for is being evicted, and you go, blah, 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 emotional distress. You lie to me once, your case is dismissed. Now, we're going to come over here. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is money owed for property damage.
Correct.
And for damages for eviction, because what happened was your landlord evicted you because she comes with her 4 dogs, 3 gerbils, 2 parakeets to your house, and the owner of your condo doesn't want her any more than the owner of their last condo.
Of course.
Didn't want them. Got to save your money, buy your own house so you can have as many dogs and parakeets as you like. You moved into a place that's nicer?
Absolutely not.
Tell me what the papers said when your landlord notified you of the eviction. Do you have them?
We do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Yes, no problem.
Marina hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
There was also in that piece of paper a $250 fine through our HOA from the whole commotion that he caused the day of asking them to leave.
Just a second, you were a month-to-month tenant.
Correct.
You didn't have a lease for 2 years. You were a month-to-month tenant.
We had a year lease, and then when the year was up, we moved month to month.
They didn't evict you.
No, they just gave us, they asked
Just a
us to
second.
leave.
Your lawsuit is for damages, punitive damages for an eviction. You weren't evicted.
Well, we were asked to leave if we...
No, they
leave it
just
during
decided
eviction
not to renew your month-to-month lease.
due to the...
I don't care what it was due to. Listen, if I owned a property and you let 3 kids, 4 dogs, moved into my condo for 6 days, I wouldn't renew your lease on a month-to-month basis either. I don't care whether they were there for 2 days, 4 days, a week, or a month. You understand?
Understood.
Okay, so there was no eviction. So the punitive damages for that, forget it. Money owed for property damage. When they moved out, what did they damage? And how much did it cost you?
There was a hole in the molding from moving the dressers down our stairs. They bonked it, bringing it out angrily because they were mad that we asked them to leave. We have the letters from our landlord stating everything that they had to deduct from our deposit.
Just a second, a hole in the wall. And how much was the hole in the wall?
The molding was...
No, just look at the paper and tell me how much was the hole in the wall.
The painting was $180 and the molding repair was $200.
Now, did you damage the molding when you were moving a dresser out of the house?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, not that you're aware of. You want to try the truth now? Was there a hole that you created moving a dresser out of the house?
When David and I were moving our dresser over the stairs, down the stairs,
Who's David?
the defendant.
So you were moving out the dresser with him? Careful, introducing you to the truth. Did you move the dresser with him?
I did help move the furniture
Your
out.
case is dismissed. The
I would think with the
counterclaim likewise is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
David, then Kelly.
I take it as a win. The initial suit was them against us. Their suit got dismissed.
We lost a lot of things and a lot of wages.
That was just us being good friends. We definitely learned our lesson. We will never help another crying husband on our doorstep claiming divorce again.
People that are offering to be nice to you in times of need don't charge you.
They kind of cried, oh, marriage and divorce the whole time, knowing that we're young and married. It's something we take seriously in our lives.
We're still trying to build our lives back.
Judy and Sarah.
I should actually make a party to introduce all those people to Mr. Truth.
I agree. There's a lot of mismatch.
Stuff.
Doesn't make sense. If
Yeah.
you're going to stay with a friend for a few days, you don't bring a bunk bed and 2 dressers. I've stayed with friends for a couple days, long weekend. You bring a bag with some clothes.
Even with your kids.
Yeah, you don't bring furniture. You don't bring any of that. So there's a lot of discrepancies.
Things that didn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true.
Agreed.
Case 2041, Dion versus Everson. All parties, please step forward.
Caitlin Dion claims her former employer, Scott Everson, breached their contract to buy her baby shoe business.
All right, what looks to be a complicated case actually is merely just a contract case. Miss Dion, you had a side business of making baby shoes, and I assume that those are the baby shoes.
Yes, it was a full-time
The
business.
defendants had a children's clothing website, and they became familiar with your baby shoes, and they were interested in buying your business. You entered into a contract wherein I believe that they agreed to pay you $30,000 for the business. Is that correct?
That was the asking price. There was never a written contract signed.
That's incorrect.
Just a second. You entered into a deal for $30,000 and an employment contract without a written contract?
I have the written contract here, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah. I would say goodbye to you all if there wasn't a written contract.
There was a draft of a contract, the terms of which changed numerous times over the 2 years.
You can't change a written contract. Was it a written contract that was signed by both parties?
No, it was
He
never
refused
signed.
to sign it, even though he was the one that wrote it himself and emailed it to me himself.
Caption coming up.
You called him within the period that you were supposed to be working for him and said, this is too much for me, I can't do it. I read your complaint. Do you understand? That's a breach of your contract, if there ever was a contract.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, 𝐂𝐚𝐬 and Scott.
Caitlin Dion claims her former employer, Scott Everson, breached their contract to buy her baby shoe business.
Well, then there was never a meeting of the minds. May I see that? This is going to be a much easier case than I thought.
That's also incorrect. I have
Just
audio.
Just a second. This is going to be a much easier case than I thought.
That's the latest draft of an agreement, of which there were several drafts prior to that.
Listen to me, sir. Doesn't make any difference to me. She's suing you because you paid her pursuant, I assume, under this non-contract, according to you, $31,000.
In good
That
faith.
was both for a piece of her business and for her staying on for a period of, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months?
That was never agreed to.
Neither was the $30,000. Do you understand? You can't have it both ways,
It's a
Ms. Dion.
complicated case.
It's not complicated. It's very simple. You didn't have a written contract. If you had an oral contract, that's one thing.
I do have that, actually. I have audio that we can play right now telling him that he promises to pay me $30,000 regardless of how long I worked for him.
Just a second. The original deal that you had was for $30,000.
There was actually an original deal that was much more than the contract he
Ms.
took
Dion,
months
how
to
much did Ms. Dion,
change to
Ms.
sign.
Dion, there's no question that under the terms of what you both thought was reasonable, you agreed to accept $30,000 from him for the business, and you would stay with the business for a period of time, either 4 months or 6 months. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but that is totally reasonable because he wasn't in the baby shoes business. According to your complaint, you were going through some marital difficulty, you were going through other major problems, and you called him within the period that you were supposed to be working for him and said, this is too much for me, I can't do it. I read your complaint. Do you understand? That's a breach of your contract, if there ever was a contract. That was, listen to me carefully.
Look in the contract,
listen,
it says that he would take away $400 per week that I did not work for him.
This is not,
Staying
listen
with
to me,
him.
Mr. Young, listen to me very carefully. This is an unsigned contract.
Why didn't you send it to me then?
Just a second. He gave you $31,000.
He did not. He gave me $5,000.
Just a second. He says he gave you over the period of time $30,000. Did you give her?
I have to.
But just a second.
In the period of time that we've known Ms. Dion and worked with her, I've given her $31,668.
I have proof that says
That was-
otherwise.
I'd like to see it.
Here are my hourly paychecks.
Not.
Those are paycheck stubs, of which, of the $31,000 she received,
That were not
10,000
part of the business purchase price.
Listen.
No, you're right. That was pay stubs.
I have to explain something to you. There was no written contract and clearly no meeting of the minds based upon what you both told me today.
What was I
just a
supposed to
second.
do? I signed the contract and gave it back to him.
Then you should have done nothing. If he didn't sign it, you should have done nothing.
I was a single mother at the time. He
Mr.
did
Young,
not.
you have to understand, this is a court.
He had
This
all of
is
my
a court.
assets.
This is a court. It's not Dr. Phil. You had no written contract, and if you had no written contract, you had to have an oral contract.
I do.
No, then you had to have an oral contract, and that oral contract clearly did not reflect a meeting of the minds of both of you. If he didn't sign this contract, and whether it was for your business or for your employment, are you saying to me that you did not receive from him? I'm just curious, because he has the documentation to show me that you did not receive from him $31,000.
I have documentation. Sorry, I thought that was a question you asked.
That was a question that you did not receive from him. I don't care if it was the business or as a worker, that you did not receive from him during a period of time $31,000.
I did not. That's incorrect. I have my paychecks. I have the down payment that he made. I have the installments that he made.
Just a second.
All of which
He
add
gave
up to
me.
$31,000.
Just a second. Add them up, and I asked you a question. How much was it? Your paychecks and the down payment he made on your business. How much was it? I want to know if it was he said it was $31,000.
He paid me $16,666 for my business. My paychecks do not matter. They were not a part of the business agreement.
Did you file your case in small
That is
claims?
not a part of my business.
Did you file your case in small claims court?
Yes.
Just
Working
a second.
hourly was not a part of the contract.
Pay careful attention to me. If you filed your case in small claims court, I'm going to give you an opportunity to go back there. If you think you have I do not. I do not believe that there was a meeting of the minds when there's a contract unsigned for over $10,000. That's absolutely ludicrous. As long as I'm comfortable with the fact that you got paid during a period of time, $30,000, so that you worked and you got paid. The contract for the sale of the business, as far as I'm concerned, was never consummated. I'm going to let you go try to explain your position to a judge in either Superior Court, because I don't think small claims courts hear cases up to $10,000. I don't know where you're from. Where are you from?
It's actually $11,000.
Utah.
In Utah.
Well, go back to Utah. This case is dismissed without prejudice. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Caitlin, then Scott.
I reminded him over the period of 2 months.
Paid her $31,000 for her time in her business.
Give me the contract, give me the contract, give me the contract.
She wanted a job. That's how she first approached us. She applied for a job with us.
My working for him hourly was never part of the agreement.
I wish I had been more careful.
I'll see him back in court.
Title, Judy Justice.
Have you been cheated? Go to judyjustice.tv, Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley for damages from an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Case 2122, Wheat, Schilling, Hensley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wheat, it is your claim that the defendants assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is what I gather from reading your complaint. On August 10th of this year, your cat was injured. How was your cat injured?
That I don't know. The morning of the August 10th, I had let him outside. When he came back in, he was acting peculiar. I picked him up and noticed that he had 2 long, deep gashes on between his chest and his stomach.
At what time was this?
Approximately 10:45, 10:30.
And the defendants work at the vet where you have taken the cat before?
Not this particular cat. I have 3 cats total, and I had good service from them, so naturally I went back.
They work at a vet where you had taken an animal, maybe not this one, before?
Correct.
So at that time, you put the cat in the car and drove over to where the vet's office is?
Yes.
And during that time, they had a COVID protocol in the vet's office. And the protocol, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I've taken my pets to the vet during COVID. You get to the parking lot, you call. They come out, they check in the animal and what's wrong. And then they come out when someone is ready to see the animal. They bring them inside. You do not come into the office. Is that your protocol?
Correct.
Is that your COVID protocol? Well, it was in a couple of vets where I took our dogs. Were you aware of that protocol?
No, Your Honor, not at all.
So tell me, what happened when you got to the vet's office? Is there a parking lot?
There is. There was one other vehicle there. It was pulled up in the front of the door, the very first
The
spot.
papers indicate that there is a chart or a video of the parking lot. Is that correct?
We drew a diagram that they based that on.
Okay. So that would be a fair representation, sir, of the vet clinic, and there are parking spaces in front of it?
I believe so, yes.
Where did you park? Yes, please.
My car, I'm assuming at this point, the main door is approximately over here.
Okay.
There was the vehicle that I was mentioning is parked here, and I was parked here.
Okay, but you were parked right in front.
Yes.
Okay, is that right?
Yes.
Great.
John returns to the plaintiff's table.
Okay, so what happened when you got there?
Well, I walked around the back of the car, got the cat out. He was in the passenger seat in the cat carrier. And I went immediately up to the door, and I don't know the defendants' names, but the younger of the 2, she was already out front with a...
You mean the young lady in the blue sweater?
Yes.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
You're
Your
looking
Honor.
over there. What is your last name?
Hensley.
Miss Hensley.
She was already outside with a customer at
Your
that
Honor,
point.
that was,
Shh,
it wasn't me.
Don't speak. Okay, so you say Miss Hensley was already outside with another patient.
I thought it was Miss Hensley. It could have been another lady that worked there, but it was similar in youth and...
Okay, so somebody came out and was talking to another
They were
patient.
already there, and so they stopped me. I was proceeding up to the door, and I, like I say, I have pictures of the signage that they have. So you can't read the signage until you get right up on top of it.
Okay, so you went to the door, and what happened?
I went to go in, and I was stopped.
By whom?
The lady that was outside.
Okay, and the person who was outside stopped you?
And said that you couldn't go in, so I stopped. I told him that it was an emergency, that my cat was injured.
You told the lady outside?
That was outside, absolutely. Told him that he was injured and that he needed to see somebody immediately, the vet. And they suggested that I needed to call, and I couldn't understand it because I was already there. I said, can you just go inside and let him know that I was here? That seemed reasonable to me. What
they told you was to get back into your car with the cat and call the...
No.
Or just call?
Just call. So I said,
So she was talking to the person who I assume was a female, because you say Miss Hensley or someone resembling her. They were taking care of another patient that was outside.
Yeah, when they stopped me before I got...
And said, stop.
Correct.
Call, right?
Correct.
And you were upset, and you said, well, why can't you just go inside and tell them that I'm here?
Yeah,
well, because she was with somebody else.
Well, it appeared to me that they were done.
Okay, I don't care what appeared to you.
Yes.
She was outside with somebody else. She told you to call. What happened next?
Well, I sat the cat down, and I actually sat on the concrete and waited. That person had...
Waited for what?
That person left. As soon as they got done talking with me, they went into the building. So, and I waited about 5 minutes. And then I guess it was Miss Hensley now. She came out and asked me now if I had an appointment, my cat's name. I said no. And I told her, I said, no, it was an emergency. And then she told me at that time that there was no vet on duty. And so then that's when I got up. I was upset. I said that I needed to leave. I did use an explicitive.
What did you say?
Well, I said that I needed to get out of there so I could get some help.
Okay.
And then I picked up my cat and the carrier, and I was proceeding to leave.
And?
That's when the other plaintiff,
Miss Schilling came out,
and she confronted me, and she started into a huge rant about how she wasn't going to stand there and listen to this or whatever.
Were you shouting at Miss Hensley?
No.
She told you that there was no vet on duty.
Right.
And you got up and you said, I'm going to get the whip out of here.
Correct.
That's it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. The fact that I had waited 5 minutes, I was, it was upsetting. So then when she
Miss Schilling came out and?
She started into a huge rant.
What did she say? A rant is a conclusion. What did she say?
Well, she had her voice raised. She was shouting at me.
What did she say?
She said that she wasn't going to stand there and let me say things to this other woman. So then I just looked at her and I told her basically to shut up. So...
Is that what you said to her?
I told her to shut up.
Okay, so you again used an expletive.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, there was no reason for it. Okay.
I'm just asking you what happened.
Yes.
So you told her to shut up.
I did.
And?
That's when she came over. She was probably about 3 foot away, and she stepped right over into me, and she put her body on mine. So she stepped right into me, pushed me back with her body, and she told me, I'm not afraid of you, I'm not intimidated by you. And I told her, don't touch me, get off of me. And I told her twice, and she never moved. I put my cat down, and I moved her off of me.
What do you mean, I
pushed her back off of me.
You put your hands on her?
She was already on me.
How was she on you, sir? What physical part of the defendant?
Her chest, her entire body was leaning on me at that point. She body checked me.
I'd like you to go over there and show me where Miss Schilling came out and where the 3 of you were standing.
Okay, I have pictures as well.
Okay.
So here being the front door.
Yeah, right.
And here was the box where I was sitting. When I picked up the cat, I moved over to here. When she came out the door, she was approximately here. And then she moved over to me and put her body on mine.
When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving.
Well, when she came out, why didn't you just go into your car?
No, the first lady that I encountered never told me there was no vet.
No. I understand that. When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving. I had picked up my cat and literally was walking away. I had walked from here to approximately here. In that meantime, she came out, and I had my back to her at first, and she started to yell.
No, he wasn't. He was yelling in my face.
Just a second. I'm going to let you have a turn as soon as he's finished. Go ahead.
She started to yell at me, and that's when I told her.
Okay, go back.
Thank you.
And then what happened? So now she put her body on you. You put both hands on her and pushed her back.
To push her off me.
And then what happened?
Then she struck me.
How did she strike you?
With her open hand.
Where did she strike you?
On my face.
Okay, when you pushed her, she slapped you.
She did.
And next?
And then the other one slapped me. She reached over her shoulder and slapped me.
Okay, on the face?
On the face.
And then?
And then we started to argue, and it was just yelling back and forth. And then the gentleman came out of the vehicle that was parked in that first spot, and he kind of diffused the engagement, and that's when she told me, just leave, leave. I felt safe enough to turn at that point, and I went and put my cat back in the car, and that's when the lady in the blue ran behind my car, said, don't let him leave, don't let him leave, ran behind my car and placed her body on my car.
And?
And then that's when I told her, I says, you can't keep me, you can't detain me here, I'm going to take my cat to someplace where I can get him some medical, and I moved her away from my car.
How did you move her away?
With my hands.
So you...
Open hands.
Okay.
That's when she turned and struck me with her fist, broke my glasses, gave me a black eye. I was defending myself at that point. I had my hands up. I'm all cut up on this. And then that's when I finally grabbed her by her hair and pulled her off of me.
Which one did you grab by the hair?
The brunette.
Hannah fumes. Caption coming up.
What was he saying to you?
Sorry, it's a lot. Reliving it. He started screaming in my face, and I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. I don't remember exactly what he was saying. It was really scary. That's all I know.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, John, Heather, and Hannah.
John Wheat claims vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley owe for damages after he was assaulted in the parking lot.
Okay, now prior to her going behind your car, you had had no physical interaction with her.
Other than her hitting me.
She slapped you.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, Miss Hensley, you came out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for the vet?
I am a vet assistant.
And how long have you worked for the vet?
Like 1.5 years.
So you've been working for the vet all during COVID?
Yes.
Is this the first incident that you had while you've been working at this vet?
Yes.
How long have you been working at the vet?
10 years now.
Have you ever had another incident like this, either during COVID or before?
Not like this, Your Honor. I've had to call the police before. We've had threats. We've had people shouting. Of course, animals bring out emotions, but never has anything ever been physical.
Did you know Mr. Wheat from prior visits with other cats?
I did not. I do know that we had seen one cat once before, and that actually was during COVID.
During COVID?
Yes.
So you checked, and it was the same COVID protocol?
Yes.
Leaving one?
We've had the same protocol since COVID started.
Okay. So the last time you took a cat there, you were familiar with the COVID protocol. Just think about what you're saying to me.
Okay.
The last time you took a cat there was during COVID, so you were familiar with the COVID protocol.
I believe I might have called before I went there.
And you waited in the parking lot. Somebody came out, took the cat inside.
I believe so.
And that's the protocol. And the reason that you didn't do that this time is because you felt as if it was an emergency.
Yeah, I was not aware of any protocol.
Yes, you were.
No.
Oh, yes, of course you were. Of course you were aware of a protocol, sir. The woman outside told you that there was a protocol. She said you have to call first. And she was speaking to somebody out in the parking lot. You know, you've had animals for a long time. When I go to the vet, there usually isn't somebody out in the parking lot. So you know that there's a protocol because you know that somebody else was out there talking to a patient and said to you, you have to call first.
After, yes.
And said to you, you have to call first. Okay, now you want to tell me what happened when you first interacted with him?
Yes, so he was sitting outside, and so I went out and told him that he would have to call to check in, that we were curbside, and he said that he wasn't calling anybody. And I told him that I was very sorry, that was not how we ran things, that he had to call and check in over the phone, and then that we would come out and then bring in his cat. And he said that he wasn't doing that he wanted to see a doctor then. And I was like, we cannot do that. And so then I asked him, did he have an appointment with us? Like, what's the cat's name? I'm not even sure, you know, what we're dealing with here. I need to get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I think he said the names of the cat was Pebbles. I don't even know. I'm not sure. But I asked if we had an appointment. He said no. And then I asked him what was wrong. And he said, the cat's bleeding out. She's dying. Something along the lines of that. Screamed at my face. And so I said, sir, I'm so sorry. You need to go to an emergency clinic. We don't have a vet today. And so then he started screaming in my face, got up, screaming in my face,
Was there a vet there that
No,
day?
we were doing tech appointments that day, so just like nail trims, things like that, things that we can do without doctor.
So there was no vet there?
Yeah, there was no vet.
So you told Kim you have to go to an emergency room?
Yes.
And when you said there was some shouting, what was he saying to you?
He was basically saying...
No, not basically.
It happened a long time ago, so honestly, I don't remember the exact words.
Okay, so you don't remember exactly what he said to you. He was angry. Okay, he sort of acknowledges that he was angry. Then what happened?
I'm sorry, it's a lot. Reliving it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He started screaming in my face that we weren't helping and that he would be leaving, but he just was still screaming in my face. And I don't even remember, I'm so sorry. I don't remember exactly what he was saying.
Just take a minute.
It was really scary, that's all I know. And I told him that he needed to leave and he wasn't, and that's when Heather finally came out and told him that he needed to leave. She got in between us and was like, "Sir, you need to leave now." And she just kept saying, "You need to leave now." And he kept screaming in our faces, and she was like, "I'm not gonna have you screaming at my girls." That's what he's referring to when she got into his face. She said she did step into his face to push him away because he needed to leave. And she said, "You're not gonna be screaming at my girls." He still was being belligerent, not leaving.
And at that point, that's when he spit in my face, and that's what caused me to shove him.
And then he grabbed.
When you said, so we'll stop for a second, you came outside because you heard an altercation outside.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when you came outside.
So I did come at them. I stood in between the two of them, and I told him he needed to leave. He needed to leave now. I told him I was not going to have him talking to my girls like that. That wasn't appropriate. He needed to leave. And he was still shouting, and then that's when he spit in my face. And then I did push him away to get back from me, and he stepped forward. I did smack him with an open hand, and then he pushed me. And what he's leaving out is he actually grabbed my scrub top, and he was pulling on my scrub top, and that's why Hannah had stepped back in. She tried to get his arm off, which probably is where the scratches came from, and he grabbed her scrub top at the same time. So there was more contact than...
Where was the cat?
The cat was actually behind me. He had left the cat there.
Sounds like a little bit more, Mr. Wheat, than what you told me in your narrative.
They're lying. First off, she said that when she just admitted to the fact that she told me that I needed to call. And that's what the first thing I said when I came and pulled up, is that the person that I met outside at the very beginning told me that I needed to call.
Yes.
And she just said that she told me I needed to call. There would have been no reason for the second person to come out and tell me that I needed to call. At that point, they came out and told me, asked me if I had an appointment, and I said no, that it was an emergency. And I had my cat the entire time with me until I put him down in order to push her off of me. That's the only time I put my cat down, and he was next to me the whole time. I would not have left my cat between her and me.
Mr. Wheat, these people have been in business for a very long time. Is it just possible, sir, that because of the circumstances, and you were there with a cat who was bleeding out, that you were high energy and maybe not totally composed? I mean, I have two people work here, at least one who's worked for the same vet for 10 years. You've used this vet before. You haven't had problem with this vet before, and she's been there 10 years. And I assume that, at least she tells me, she's never had an incident like this before. So I can actually imagine, you know, I'm trying to put myself here, somebody comes out and says to you, "We don't have a vet on duty," which you probably didn't believe at the moment.
No, I did.
Well, if you believed that there was no vet on duty, why didn't you just walk into your car? Why did you say anything to her? Why did you use an expletive? Why was there any need to have any communication at all with her? If there's no vet here, okay, I better get my animal to...
Well, Your Honor, when I first pulled in and I had that conversation with whoever that worked there, and I'll use that term loosely, whoever, they knew what I was there for.
Don't tell me what anybody else knew, sir.
Caption coming up.
You were not told that there was no vet inside by the first person that you encountered.
No, that's wrong.
No, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, John, Heather, and Hannah.
John Wheat has accused vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley of injuring him after an assault in the parking lot.
Go ahead.
I explained that it was an emergency.
Just a second. The person that you were talking to, you just told me, was dealing with another client who had another animal out in the parking lot.
And I told him that it was an emergency.
Okay. Well, you know, one man's emergency is not. How's the cat?
Now?
Yes.
The cat's fine from that injury, but he's blind now.
Well, fine from that. Did you get the cat to a vet?
I did.
How far away?
20 minutes.
And what did they do to the cat?
Clean and sutured.
And you took him home?
I did.
And you took him the same day?
I did. Yes.
And when you went to the second vet, it was an emergency vet?
It was.
Okay. Did they have a curbside arrangement there? They did not?
No.
Had you called them if you drove? Well, you mean you drove 20 minutes not knowing if they could get to see a vet?
They're open.
How do you know?
I've been there many times.
Mr. Wheat, do you think that I think that you drove with your cat without calling first to see if they were open and a vet there when they had already told you that their vet wasn't there? Why would I get in the car? I wouldn't at least make a call.
The only other vet that's available right there.
Well, how do you know that that vet was available?
I've never been there where they've not.
Okay. You have any medical records for me to see of your injuries? I'd like to see them.
My injuries?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'd like to see them.
I have pictures of my injuries.
I'd like to see that. Miss Schilling said that you spit in her face. Is that true?
That's not true. You're not. I don't have any lower teeth. When she was in my face yelling at me, and I was yelling back at her, that's when she made that accusation.
It was more than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
It was what?
More than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
He full-on spit.
Okay. Do you have a police report?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
John produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
Okay, so the police report indicates that they were called, I assume they were called by you?
Yes.
Because they responded to their location. And the police officer observed red marks on her neck and her hair falling out of her head.
I do have pictures as well, Your Honor.
That's when I pulled her off of me. That's when I got all those scratches in my black eye.
I'd like to see the defendant's photographs.
Okay.
Heather hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. A photo of John with a black eye.
Mr. Wheat, I've read the police report, I've looked at your pictures, and can I see pictures from the defendants?
A photo of Hannah's bruised neck and of a small bald patch on her head.
I do not have a cross complaint. Your answer, Ms. Schilling and Ms. Hensley, both indicate this was a terrible incident and you just wanted to go away.
Yes, Your Honor.
You too. You too.
I did call the police.
You too.
I called the police before they called the
You too. Mr. Wheat, you know, there are certain things that are common sense. And the common sense of it is you were upset, you were aggravated, you were angry, you were not getting what you needed. You were not told that there was no vet inside by the first person that you encountered. So
No,
you
wrong.
Well,
I wasn't told until after the second person came.
I said, no, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. I said you were not told by the first person that you encountered that there was no vet inside. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. It wasn't until Miss Hensley came outside that she told you that there was no vet inside. That is correct, ma'am.
That is correct.
Right. Now, in between that time, according to you, you sat outside for 5 minutes.
That's correct.
You sat outside for 5 minutes and you did not do what you were instructed to do by the person who was outside taking care of another animal, and they said, you have to call first. You said, you're right here, why can't you tell them? That's what you just told me, is that correct?
As soon as I finished with the conversation about them calling, they left me and went inside.
That's okay. You did not call, and you sat there on the cement, according to you, and waited. Then she came outside and told you there's no vet.
That's correct.
Okay. By that time, you were very angry because now you had a cat that was sick. Oh, yes, absolutely. It says so in the police report that that's what you said. You said you were belligerent.
I was.
You were belligerent and you were angry, but the first physical contact that happened was the defendant to you. But you say you were belligerent and you were angry.
Yes.
And you honestly said that to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't act smart. If I had my animal that was bleeding to the vet and they said call, I would have called. And if I didn't call, and if I waited outside and somebody came outside and said to me, the vet's not here, all I would have said is, why didn't somebody tell me that before? Because I waited out here for 5 minutes, even though I didn't do what I was told to do, which was to call first and check in. Do you understand? Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
John, then Heather and Hannah.
Obviously, I have to stand by what she said.
I think that it was very fair. I think that she saw that he was an angry man who was upset about his cat.
They were the aggressor to me.
As soon as he was screaming and yelling, I think that that was the line.
I was holding up my hand trying to protect myself from her. She hit me, broke my glass, gave me a black eye.
The sooner that you leave, the sooner you can get your cat treatment.
I was upset at some point, I would have to say. That's true.
Pretty bad. I've been having issues like working with people coming up to the door.
Cat survived.
He is not welcome. The police did place a no trespass, and that was honestly our goal. We just didn't want him to come back.
You know, people get really upset when their pets are injured and they can't get immediate care. It's not quite as acute, probably, as when your child is sick and you take them to the emergency room and there are 500 people in the emergency room, but your child has a sore arm. You don't know if it's broken or not, you know, and you're agitated. He was clearly agitated, agitated and angry. Actually, I sympathized with him. You know, the first person could have said to him, we have no vet. If it's an emergency, go someplace else. Didn't. And then he sat and waited. And as he sat and waited, got angrier and angrier. And then we have no vet. You have to go someplace else. Bottom line, it was all a bad scene. But it was a bad scene precipitated by him.
Yeah, just listening to his story, I could tell the agitation level just as he's waiting and not getting info. You could tell. And like you said, sympathize with it.
Unfortunate. I think the defendants actually were interesting that they didn't file a counterclaim.
I also was surprised
because
by that.
They had, one of them, the young woman, had some serious injuries, pulled her hair out, she gets marks on her neck. They just said it was a bad incident, just let it go. He should have too.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv. Suing her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Wilson, for living expenses, stolen property, and vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2049, Councilman versus Jorge Watson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Horath, this is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is your girlfriend.
My fiance, yes.
Is she divorced?
She's widowed.
Since when?
June 6th.
Of what year?
2022.
Well, let me understand this. Prior to you being a widow, you were involved with Mr. Horath. Were you divorced?
I was going through a divorce.
Okay. And then he passed away?
Yes.
Mr. Horath, in 2013, you were incarcerated. How long?
5 years.
And you have 2 little girls.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were incarcerated, were the children living with you prior to being incarcerated?
Yes.
They were living with you?
Yes.
When you went to prison, was there any reason the children didn't go with their mother?
She left him with my mother.
So your mother obtained custody of your children 9 years ago?
Yes.
And raised them?
Yes.
You got out of prison when?
September 2017.
And when you got out of prison, your mother invited you to come and live in the house?
Yes.
In her house?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else lives in her house?
My grandmother.
Who I understand from these papers is suffering from
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. So your mother was taking care of her mother and your 2 daughters?
Yes.
So your fiancée now, who looks as if she's expecting a child, was your mother's next door neighbor?
Yes.
And you became involved with her when?
End of October 2020, or 19, I'm sorry.
And when you became involved with her, you have 2 children?
Yes.
You invited her with your mother's permission to move in to your mother's house with her 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
We did agree that she could move in and stay in the guest.
Had you been living in the house by yourself with the 2 girls?
Yes, I have.
How large a house is it?
It's pretty good, decent size. It was a 1,980 square feet, now expanded out another 800 feet, so quite. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths.
How do you support yourself?
I own my own business. I'm a nurse. Due to the fact of taking care of my granddaughters and my parents at the time, I had to resign from Fort Irwin, working there because of couldn't commit to the hours. So because of that, I went ahead and got my own business of doing home infusions. And that started right before the pandemic. And so I work a lot.
Anybody help you take care, before they moved in, anybody help you take care of the girls and your mother?
No, it was me.
Now, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
And you?
Nursing student and mother.
So you don't work?
No.
How do you support yourself?
I was going to school and...
Well, supporting yourself doesn't go to school unless you were getting money for going to school. Were you getting money for going to school?
Yes.
From whom?
From financial aid.
How much?
Maybe like $800, $900 a month. And this was before I was living with Danny and Nancy.
And after you moved in with Danny and Nancy?
I was helping her take care of her mother, and her VA was paying me to take care of her.
She was getting the Veterans Aid and Attendance. I gave her that extra money to help out with my mom and those expenses.
And then currently, I'm taking care of our young son we have together.
So you have a child together and expecting another one?
Yes.
So then you'll have 4 children, correct? Yes. And you will have 4 children?
I will have 4 children, yes.
Sounds as if your mother did some very nice things for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds as if Miss Castleman did some very nice things for you.
Yes.
Why do you think she's suing you?
Out of anger.
Mr. Horath, why would she be angry at either one of you?
Because we decided that we were going to go ahead off and do our own thing, and she was no longer included in being part of that.
Like what?
Well, being part of a family or a unit. Once my grandmother's health declined and she went to a facility, there was no more communication about anything that was going on around the house anymore.
I don't know what you mean by that. Your fiance's arrangement was that she was being paid by the VA to take care of your grandmother.
Yes.
And then your grandmother, according to you, had to go into a facility.
Yes.
Which means your fiance isn't getting any more payment from the VA.
Correct.
Now, you're working, you drive a truck.
Yes.
Were you contributing towards the running of the household?
Oh, of course, yes.
How much?
Whatever needed to be paid.
No. Tell me what you paid.
I paid the Edison, half the Edison.
Well, that's not a set amount.
I paid $300 a month.
Well, that's an amount. So you paid $300 a month towards the Con Edison.
Yes, ma'am.
What else did you pay?
We paid for the trash.
How much was the trash?
$50 a month.
What else?
I paid for the food.
For who?
For our family.
Well, for all of you or just for you, your fiance, and the 4 children?
And my grandmother, yes, and my grandmother, and Nancy, too.
Not for me.
Shh.
Speak. She would come over and have dinner with us quite often. And I would make her meals and send them to her.
What you're saying is, because I read when you said she would come over for dinner, there came a time when there were an awful lot of people living in the house, and your mother, because it was so crowded, moved into a trailer on the premises, and you moved into the master suite.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Say thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Now, did you pay for anything else that you're not telling me?
Yes, we paid for the internet.
Their internet.
Yes.
Shh. For your own internet?
Yes.
I'm talking about expenses for the house. I assume the mortgage was paid off. Is that what you wrote here?
Danny did pay for the property taxes.
Okay, well then, that was my next question, property taxes. Did you pay for any of that?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
It was $12.64 a year.
Anything else?
Remodeling expenses that we did to the home.
I know it was expanded, and it was expanded after you were there.
Yes.
Yes. And do you know how much the remodeling expenses were?
The additions were done before I came home, but everything else was added to when we were living there.
Like what?
The pellet stove had went out, so we bought a new one.
Oh, that's I'm not interested.
Okay.
I'm not interested in that. I'm talking about regular. So let me get to my trusty computer. We have $300 a month for Con Ed. So I don't even have to do that. I could do 1, 2, 6, 4. Everybody knows me now. I'm a little challenged with regard to these things. Divided by 12 equals $105 a month. And $300 a month for Con Ed and $50 for trash is $5. So you paid in total the expenses that you told me, $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house. I'm just setting the stage for this. You paid $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house, and your mother moved out to live in a trailer so that you could be in the master suite with your fiance, a new baby, and one on the way. Those are the objective facts that I have.
Okay.
Now, So I asked you, because your mother is suing for a lot of stuff, and I don't understand why somebody would take this approach when she was nothing but good to both of you. You screwed up your life. She got stuck raising your 2 children, working full-time, and taking care of a sick mother. You know what, you go to school, and you're a full-time mother, but that's very nice, but she's not your mother, she's not your grandmother, she's nobody to you. And she took you in and your 2 children. What do you think you did to make her so angry that she would sue you? I'm curious.
I honestly don't know.
Well, you started to tell me that you moved on because she ultimately gave you notice to leave.
We actually gave her notice we were leaving, and that's when all that started.
Okay. Did you also tell your mother that you wanted to buy the house?
Yes, I did.
From her?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that started the trouble. And your mother's response was?
Of course. She said, okay.
And what happened?
I went and applied for a loan. They told me that I did not meet the criteria for the loan. I said, okay, that's fine. What about a rent-to-own option to buy? And she said, okay. We tried to get a real estate agent to go ahead and write out the contract. At that point in time, she wanted to move one of her nurses onto the property, into the trailer that she was living in. I did not feel comfortable with a stranger living on our property. I don't know them. I don't want them around my children. I don't know who they are. And if I'm going to be buying a home, I wouldn't want to.
You're not buying anything. You were renting.
With the option to buy. I want to buy the home, and then when I go back to apply for the loan in a year, I was going to buy the home.
Maybe, maybe not. Mr. Horath, so far, you see, you have somebody who has done all things to make your life, which you screwed up a little bit, more comfortable. Takes you in, takes your girls in, takes your girlfriend in, takes your girlfriend's kids in, allows you to have more latitude and more freedom by moving herself out of her own home, which is totally paid off, into a trailer so that you could be more comfortable. And she said, you want to buy the house? Fine. You couldn't get a loan. Well, could I rent to buy? She says, okay. But she's still a working person, as opposed to your fiancé.
Caption, coming up.
You ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman claims her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, owe for living expenses and stolen property. Danny and Trinity say they always paid their share of the bills.
Okay, now, she's still a working person, and she said, I would like to move one of my nurses. She's not talking about moving in some sex offender into a trailer next to her grandchildren, who she's raised. So I wouldn't see what your problem is with that, but that's neither here nor there. So that started an acrimonious separation. I'm not going to rent the house because I'm not going to allow you to move somebody that I don't know. I'm not even going to meet them. Somebody that I don't know into the trailer. Where are you living now?
We have our own home now.
Where?
Because we didn't agree with, we didn't want to live with her nurse, so we went
Just a second. I said, the question is, where is your own home?
in Hellendale.
Is that where she lives?
Near.
How near?
10 miles up the road.
And when did you move there?
July 14th.
How big a house?
It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
Who owns the house?
We're renting.
And how much are you paying in rent?
$2,500.
So you got a smaller house at 5 times what you were paying her. Is that what I'm hearing? You paid $455 monthly to your mother.
We also paid her van payment, but we
What?
also used the van. Her van payment, it was $900 a month.
Did you use the van?
Yes.
Good. Then you,
Well,
good.
we used it to also take her mother to,
Did you use the van
yes,
for you and your children and his children?
yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I want to know if she's right down the road and she was good to you for a decade, why is she not included with your family anymore?
She chose not to be.
Really?
Yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or family functions or church functions, she would never come.
Well, you say never. You just moved out a month ago.
This is prior to us moving out. We haven't talked to her since we moved.
You mean prior to you moving out, you would invite her? And what you said was, could you read that back? She's working all the time? Is that, I just want to know if that's what he said.
He said, yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or church functions, she would never come.
Okay. Unpaid living expenses, electric bill. All right, let's get to the electric bill. He said he paid $300 a month. What does he owe for the electric bill and for what months?
I was on a level pay plan for every month, and it went up higher. The rates have increased in the past year. So that was $900. It was $1,800, the bill that came out. So it actually increased over the last year, and I have copies of that. So I asked for them to pay half.
Did they ever pay the extra money?
No.
Okay. And they continue to live there?
That just came up in May, yes.
Okay, well, then I'm not interested in that. Go ahead.
And
what else? What other living expenses?
Well, the other electric bill, they were still there. They didn't pay for that one.
Which one?
The one from June to July.
Were you there in June, July?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence that I did pay.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Paid $3, not the whole amount.
No, I did pay.
Just let me see that you paid it.
Danny produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
June 19th, $600.
That was not for this electric bill. It was for...
No, that was for Edison.
It says Con Edison.
Yes.
There was another bill that still needed, it was like $723.
I don't care.
That he owed
I don't care. He paid $600 in June of 2022. You have vet bills here and personal items taken without permission. And the personal items taken without permission, you took some of her things. What did you take that didn't belong to you?
Nothing.
Well, you acknowledged that you did. You acknowledged that either you or your fiance took things that didn't belong to you. You said you returned them, but you took them.
They were packed by other family members that were helping us pack.
And?
So
they were taken without her permission?
Yes.
By your agents, by people who were helping you, so they were your agents. What was taken?
I guess there was a gun that
Not guess, I don't want to hear guess.
There was a gun that was packed.
Okay. Did you get the gun back?
I got the gun back next day.
It was returned, yes.
What else?
That's as far as I know.
What else was missing?
The ammo.
The ammunition for the gun.
I don't have any ammunition.
I wouldn't have a gun without ammo.
Well, go and look for it. What else?
KitchenAid machine.
What is that?
A KitchenAid for mixing and making. I bought that from my mom. They took that.
That was given to us by my grandmother because she can no longer bake, or actually given to her because she bakes.
And she even, for Mother's Day, Nancy brought, her and Granny, her mother, Nancy brought me the attachment. It makes pasta for the KitchenAid for Mother's Day. So she was aware that her mother gave me, when she moved to the facility, that she gave me the
she moved to a facility, she can't make a gift. If she's moving to a facility because she has Alzheimer's, she can't make a gift.
I have power of attorney over her.
Shh. Now, if what you're telling me is that you did take it and that the plaintiff sort of ratified that by buying you an attachment for it for Mother's Day, that I'll ask her about. Okay. Now, Ms. Castleman, listen to me very carefully. Did you buy Miss Watson around Mother's Day a pasta attachment for the KitchenAid?
Yes, ma'am, I did. Okay. For my mom, with my mom.
I don't...
Because they were supposed to be cooking together.
No. Mm-hmm. No. You bought an attachment for it, and if you buy an attachment, that was a gift, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made the gift, you handed the gift to whom?
To Trinity.
Right. So even if your mother didn't have the mental capacity, you could have argued, to make a gift, and it was yours, you ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
Okay.
Anything else? Vet bill. Now we'll get to the vet bill. Okay. You had to go to the emergency room when and for what, Ms. Castleman?
I was having issues with my stomach. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis and had to go to the emergency.
I can imagine. When?
That was in June, beginning of June.
June of this year. Who took you to the emergency room?
I had to take an Uber. I couldn't drive.
Who was home?
Trinity and her family.
And her family.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went to the emergency room, where was the van?
The van was at the home.
Why didn't she take you to the emergency room?
She said she couldn't do that. She said that she was too busy and stressed out.
Is that right?
I was dealing, my children's father just passed away that day.
And I was there with
Just a second. You were separated from him. Why couldn't you take her to the emergency room?
Because my children just found out that their dad passed away.
That
So
was
I
the
was
day
dealing with
before.
their emotions.
Just a second. I'm just trying to figure out why you couldn't take her to the emergency room. You've been living with your mother for a while now, since you got out of jail. How many times has your mother been to the emergency room?
Quite a few.
How many?
More than 10 that I know of.
And did you take her to the emergency room since you've been home?
I
from
have
jail?
before, yes.
How many times did you take her?
2 to 3 times, at least.
When was the last time you took her?
Maybe a year ago.
And what was wrong then?
Her sciatic nerve.
Did you wait with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, because that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Excuse me a second.
Judy produces a fly swatter, then swats a fly with it.
Don't write to me if you're a fly lover. I don't care.
Caption, coming up.
You did absolutely nothing wrong. If I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman has accused her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, of taking advantage of her kindness. Danny and Trinity claim Nancy became upset when they stopped doing her favors.
Well, Miss Watson, I know that you have an excuse. If it were me and I had been living off somebody else for years, I would have put my kids in the van and say, we have to take Grandma to the emergency room. That would just be me. And deal with my children in the van 5 minutes later.
And I would have if I wasn't dealing with my children at the time, and she was aware of that. I think she even took a Lyft or an Uber. She let me know it was okay.
I'm just telling you. I'm trying to get some sympathy going for the two of you. I'm not getting any sympathy going for the two of you. Did she ask you to watch her dog?
No, she, like normal, I have a dog too on the property, and it was a mutual agreement that anytime one of us were gone, we would always make sure the dog went out to use the restroom. But the day her dog had an injury, I wasn't home.
Where were you?
Gymnastics competition.
It just happened at night.
When was your dog injured?
On the day that I went to the ER. I asked her before, I said, I have to go, my lift is here, you know, and can you feed my dogs? And because they're in their trailer still, and Tamali's still on the bed, and I didn't want her jumping down, and can you take him out? I don't know when I'll be back. The Uber was there, or the Lyft was there, and I left. And when I came back home, it was about 5:30 in the morning. I noticed the dogs were in there, and that Asher was cut up. He had big old laceration.
Did you know what happened? Could you figure out what happened?
No, I think I know now that it was probably under their trailer while he was out, because she did say that she took him out, but she forgot to feed them, and she was home.
That night I was home, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you see her dog injured?
No.
Did you feed her dog that day?
No, I did forget to feed the dogs. I took her small dog, Tamale, off the bed, and I had them go out, and then I put them right back in, and I went back on to the house.
And you forgot to feed them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. But when you went in there, the dog was not injured?
No, he was not.
Okay. The last part of this, and then I'm actually finished. Money owed for unpaid living expenses. Anything other than what we have discussed?
They're supposed to pay rent.
Starting when?
It was supposed to initially have been in November for January of 2022, because since my mom had to go, you know, away because she couldn't take care of her anymore, you know, I had to do what I have to do.
You mean after she stopped watching your mother?
Mm-hmm. That's when I mostly enforced it. But there are text messages that they agreed to pay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
I understand, Mr. Horath and Miss Watson, that the agreement was that you would live there paying certain expenses but not rent, as long as you, Miss Watson, and or Mr. Horath, when you were home, would take care of her mother so that she could work.
Yes.
Yes.
And that stopped at a particular point.
Yes, in May.
That stopped in May.
Yes.
Okay.
Judy reviews a printout of a text exchange.
Well, it does seem that there were arguments back and forth about these expenses, but never wholly an understanding that that was going to happen.
Your Honor? I had several conversations with my son while he's truck driving. He didn't really talk to her particularly because I think she had a lot of influence on that. He would have done the
Whether he did or whether he did, this comes from Danny himself. He says, okay, check this out. I'll call the state inspectors for the septic room additions in the bathroom that needs permits first.
She did.
Just a second. What kind of thing is that? How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
37.
How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
28.
And that's 2 in addition to this current engagement.
No, then it would just be 1.
And you?
Just 1.
Well, then you're not married, so you've each been married once before.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to look at your mother. Maybe in the next couple of years, maybe, she will be here, and maybe she won't. I'm sure when you married the first time, you expected that to be forever because you made a couple of children, right?
Yes.
I hope you'll be able to see that face for a very long time, but she had another husband before you. You're only going to have one mother. And your mother was really good to you and really good to a stranger and her children. And she didn't invite them in and say, well, I'm going to apply for some assistance because now, no. She worked all the time. According to you, she chose to work. She chose to work all the time instead of going to church with you. You have no idea how ridiculous that sounds. You have no idea how ridiculous it sounds to me that Miss Watson says to me, I have children. I can't work. Well, she had 2 children, yours. And she worked and had your 2 children that she had to take care of. And she's much older than Miss Watson. Do you understand? Yes. If you have a work ethic, you have a work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic, you don't have a work ethic. But right now, she took care of you since you got out of jail. That's a long time. And for you to cut her off from yourself and her grandchildren is pretty outrageous to me. But you're 37 years old, and you have 4 children. Now 6, because they don't have a father anymore, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I don't know what you were doing with all your extra money, but to your mother you were paying $400 a month for a 5-bedroom house, and now you're paying $2,500 a month rent in a 3-bedroom house, and I assume that that's plus trash, Con Edison, and internet, and everything else that goes along with the house. So I don't know who's paying for that, unless you were just stashing away money. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't even want to go into it. Anyway, Miss Castleman, it's not worth it. You did the right thing with him. You took him in. You did absolutely nothing wrong. But you didn't have a contract with him, and you didn't have a contract with her. And I can't enforce giving you money when there was no enforceable contract. But if I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Nancy, then Danny, and Trinity.
I'm grateful for the things that she did say so they can understand where I'm coming from.
She has no control. She gets upset and wants to see revenge in any way she can.
Those words are not from him. I know my son.
We had a good relationship before all of this transpired.
They don't get it.
Well, I hope that we can all eventually get back to that point for the sake of the kids.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I don't think that there's a legal lesson there to learn, Sarah.
I know, it's just so unfortunate because I feel for the plaintiff. As a grandmother, as a mother, you try and do the right thing, and just to feel so taken advantage of. And I didn't hear a good reason. I was waiting the whole time to hear a good reason for why she was this terrible person that they had to move away from, but it never came.
Well, the only thing that I came up with was that she agreed to let them rent the house, rent to buy.
Yes.
Because they couldn't buy the house. They didn't have sufficient funds. But there was a condition. Now, she was living in a trailer on the property. She said, I want to be able to move somebody in there because I'm going to have to find another place to live, and I'm going to need money. If I sold the house, I would have some money.
And I'm sure to pay for her mother in care costs money as well.
She's a hardworking lady. She had 2 little kids that she had to take care of, in addition to a sick mother, in addition to working full-time.
A lot of stress.
While this one is in prison and the girlfriend is going to school.
No legal lesson, but hopefully they work it out.
Hopefully. Be too bad if they didn't.
Yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go suing salon owner 𝐂𝐚𝐬 Taylor for 5 wigs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2008, 𝐑𝐞𝐿 versus Taylor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Briefly, and then I'll get into specifics. You sold over the internet some wigs. You claim you sold them to the defendant.
Yes.
They were charged on a credit card. According to you, it was the defendant's credit card. You shipped the wigs. The defendant, according to you, received the wigs, then challenged the credit card charge, and the charge was reversed so that you did not get your money. And Ms. Taylor kept the wigs. It is Ms. Taylor's claim that you never sold her the wigs, that you sold the wigs to clients of hers, and if they didn't pay you, that's not her problem. Is that your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Stop jumping up and down because it makes me seasick.
Okay.
Stand still. I can't. You can't. You want a stool to sit on?
No.
You sure?
I just have anxiety.
Okay. Ms. 𝐑𝐿𝐿, how long had you been in the online wig business?
3 years now.
And on what date did Ms. Taylor contact you?
October 1st of 2021.
Had you ever dealt with her before?
I haven't. A customer of mine actually referred her to me.
You had not dealt with her before?
Correct.
And her first order was for what?
A 34-inch deep wave wig unit.
I don't know what that is. Tell me how much it cost you.
$391.
And how much did you charge Ms. Taylor?
$491.96.
And you shipped it to her?
No, I didn't.
Where did you ship it?
Right now, I didn't ship anything at the moment.
Okay, so she ordered the first one for $491.
Yes, and then after that, I shipped after.
How many did she order all in total?
In total, 5.
Within what period of time?
In the span of 4 days.
Okay, and Ms. Taylor, you do not deny the fact that 5 wigs were ordered in a conversation over the internet with the plaintiff. Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a copy of those orders?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
Fatoumata hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Who's Joyce?
One of my clients.
Your Honor, that's her.
Shh. Do you have a MasterCard?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
How long has Joyce been a client of yours?
Probably about a year.
When you say she's a client of yours, she comes to your salon?
Yes.
You have a
my
salon?
apartment. No, I have to do my hair out of my apartment.
So she comes to your apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you know when she wants to come for an appointment?
She'll text me. She'll DM me.
Okay, so she texts you, which means she texts you from a phone.
Right.
Which means that you have your phone, which shows her text messages.
Not.
What do you mean, not? If she texts you for an appointment, then you know how to contact her.
Yeah.
And she knows how to contact you. I want to see that. I want to call her.
I don't have that phone anymore.
Get it. You have to understand where I'm going. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, you understand where I'm going. Who is that?
My boyfriend.
Your boyfriend. What does he have to do with this?
Because he was at the house when her and someone else came to the door.
I don't care.
Okay.
If I were coming to court today and I knew that there was going to be a certain amount of proof that involved some person who is named Joyce, and order confirmation email was sent to Joyce at your email address.
Right.
Right. And Joyce is somebody who was a client of yours for a year, not too long ago, who's no longer a client of yours. Not uh-huh. Isn't an answer. Yes is an answer.
Ma'am.
But you can't give me her number to call because you lost your phone.
Yes. And she blocked me after I start asking her about the dispute.
Well, just a second. Well, that's two different things. You see, if she may have blocked your number, she won't block my number. That's not what you told me. You told me you don't have that phone anymore.
I don't.
Well,
and she blocked me.
How do I know that?
Her. I don't know.
How do I know that?
Did.
Yeah, right. Okay. Dora Dynasty, is that your?
Yes, that's my business.
That's your business. Well, these wigs were sent to Dora Dynasty.
Right.
Right. I know, right. And who is?
A client.
And is still your client?
No.
No. Okay. You seem to be having a lot of trouble in your business.
How?
Yeah.
I've been having this trouble ever since the wigs have got delivered, and she hit me about a dispute.
Judy smirks.
Let me explain something to you. You purchased the wigs based upon her conversation.
I got
she had
to my house.
just pay careful attention to me. They were all delivered to you.
Right.
That means you bought them. If somebody stiffed you, that's not her problem. But according to her, and you acknowledge that she sent you 5 wigs, and the is not an answer. Do you understand? You following me? Okay. What was the total value of her purchase?
$21.96.
And can I see the reversal of that charge on your credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at some point, your credit card was charged. At some point, your credit card was charged. That's either a yes or a no.
No.
Whose credit card was charged?
My client's.
Which client?
I'm not sure. Whichever wig she said was disputed.
You said in your answer you kept all the wigs.
No, I didn't. I didn't keep all the wigs. They got delivered to my house. 2 of them I installed, and the rest they picked up.
Judy reads 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐻's response.
The wigs got shipped directly to my salon.
The wigs shipped to my apartment because I was going to do their hair. I told them about the vendor.
Are you trying to tell me that despite the records that she has, that you were the contact person on all of this,
right?
Nobody else,
right?
Just you,
right?
That you gave these wigs to somebody else, to 4 other people. They paid who?
They paid her. They paid for the wigs and they got them shipped to my house.
Were 4 different people charged for the wigs?
Yes.
4 different people?
Yes. She did 5 different transactions.
Are you telling me that the 5 different transactions were all her?
All her.
That makes my life easy. So what you're saying to me, she charged it on 5 different cards.
Yes. No idea.
But she is all of those people.
All of them.
How?
I'd like to see it.
Please.
Fatoumata looks through her documents.
And Your Honor, she also admits it on Twitter. She doesn't actually know I have her Twitter account. And this is how she gets them. She orders,
May I see it, please?
Caption, coming up.
See how you're smiling? Bad, she should have left you home.
Man, please.
Do you understand? She should have left you home.
Nah, they just ain't
You
communicating
should have left
right.
you home.
They ain't communicating right.
Still not a good look from you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Fatoumata and 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐻.
Fatoumata Diallo claims salon owner 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐻 Taylor owes for the cost of 5 wigs.
What's Beauty?
That's her business name, business Twitter.
I don't have a Twitter.
Right.
I have an Instagram, 2 of them.
I have
and a business page. That's what I have. I don't have a Twitter. Do you have my Instagram?
I do.
Don't talk to each other. Don't ask her any questions.
Judy reviews a document.
That's so interesting.
What?
From Dora Salon, is that it? Or Dora Salon?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
I have her LLC.
Just a second, yeah. Can I see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Dora Dynasty.
And here's her LLC, so it matches.
I'd like to see it.
And here you go as well.
Fatoumata hands documents to Kevin.
Well, this is from Beauty at...
No.
What do you mean, no?
No, my business name is Dora Dynasty.
Yeah. Dora Salon 1 Beauty, Dora Dynasty LLC, Dora's Dynasty.
Right.
And about the same time, the tweet is over 2,000 in wigs. I'll smack those. And then on the 13th, you write, my wigs come tomorrow. And then on October 11th, I'll be wrong if I dispute it once I get it. And then I don't know. What are the,
because,
what is,
ma'am,
just a sec, I'm reading something. Is not an answer. I didn't ask you anything. What does that mean, Sarah?
It's just an emoji. Like, so what? I don't care.
Oh, I'll be wrong if I dispute it once I get it. So what? But was so rude I can't even ask them questions, telling me I didn't read it. And then she writes, see how you're smiling? Bad, she should have left you home.
Man, please.
Do you understand? She should have left you home.
Nah, they just ain't
You
communicating
should have left
right.
you home.
They ain't communicating right.
I paid all this money for these wigs and these slow rolling. Wow. I assumed that those people, the clients that you were talking about, was slow rolling. Would that be a fair statement? I mean, I'm not familiar with all of this. And then you show me in these tweets, or whatever they call them, a picture that was put up by Boo. Is that a name?
Yes.
Now, what is that?
That's her client actually contacting me and telling me that she's charged her for the wigs and that she was never a stylist to begin with.
How did I upcharge the fee when they paid for it themselves?
Nobody hears you, madam. Okay, so you acknowledge you got them. Your statement is you no longer have them. She didn't make a deal with you. She made a deal with 4 other phantom clients, 2 of whom either you lost your phone, the dog ate your phone, you don't have the number anymore, you don't have the contact anymore, but we don't know how to get in touch with him. And then there was somebody that actually was wearing one of the wigs that she didn't get paid for that she got from you.
That's not true.
Could I see the invoice and the chargeback, please?
Yes.
𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐞 produces documents.
Still not a good look from you.
Well,
Yeah, not a good look.
It's funny because it's not true.
Not a good look.
She hands the documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
You the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Stand up for a minute. Just have a couple of questions. Tell me your name.
Braylon, right?
What do you do for a living?
I'm a barber.
Do you live together?
Yes.
How long have you lived together?
Going on a year.
So you were living with her when these wigs were delivered?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, would be an answer. Were you there when she opened the wigs?
One wig she had to put together for a client. Then she opened, she told me what she was doing. I know her. I don't be in no business like that.
So the answer is you were only there when one wig was delivered?
I was only there when she opened one wig.
When she opened one?
And I took her to go pick up a wig from her.
Did you drive her there?
Yeah.
Did you go in with her?
No. She came outside. She walked across the street and got it.
Don't speak. Don't speak. She walked across the street and got it.
From her, yeah. Downtown.
Your Honor, she was actually driving.
Do you work out of the apartment as well?
No.
You work out of a shop?
Yes.
Are you ever there when your girlfriend is working on clients in your house, in your apartment?
Yeah, I've been there.
Often?
Not really, I be gone. Working hours, I'm working. She work at the house, I'm working at the shop.
How many rooms are in the place where you and the defendant live?
At the time, we was in a 2-bedroom apartment.
And who was there, just the 2 of you?
No, we had a roommate.
So you had 1 bedroom for yourselves, you had a roommate, and then there was a common area, kitchen, living room, right?
Yes.
Where did she conduct her salon business, in what room?
What it would be like dining room area connected.
In the dining room?
Yeah.
And is that where she kept her equipment?
Yes.
Is that where she kept her materials?
Yes.
How many wigs did you see in that dining room area at any one time during the time you were living there?
Maybe 1 she was working on the door, 2, maybe 2 at the most.
You paid rent in the apartment?
Did I pay rent? Nah.
Did she pay rent?
Yes.
How much?
It was like, what, $1,200?
Don't ask her anything.
$1,200. I don't pay the rent, $1,200. I don't pay it, so I don't know.
Why don't you pay anything towards rent?
I don't have to pay the rent if I pay the bills, I pay car notes, I pay different stuff. We 50-50.
Well, if it's 50-50, then you would also pay part of the rent.
Not if it add up to both our car notes, rent, which really be a little bit more.
Okay, so you pay the other bills, she pays the rent.
Yeah, I moved in with her. I ain't lived there the whole time. I told you it only be like a year. She was already staying there. I moved in.
With what did you pay the car note? With a check?
No, I pay with either a car or my money.
Your girlfriend, does she have a car?
Does she have a car?
Yes, yes or no?
Not right now, she did.
Did she?
Yes.
What kind of a car did she have?
Chevrolet Sonic.
And what happened to that car?
It got, whatever, repoed.
It was repossessed.
They was scamming me on my insurance.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything. I'm asking your witness.
Okay.
You brought him.
All right.
Caption, coming up.
I'm not the only person you suing. If I pulled up
nobody
and bought a vehicle, why wouldn't I
nobody is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐞 and 𝐚𝐬𝐞.
𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐞 Diallo has accused salon owner 𝐚𝐬𝐞 Taylor of stealing 5 wigs. 𝐚𝐬𝐞 says 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐞 was trying to scam her.
So the car was repossessed. When? Don't look at her. Give me a month, give me a year. Was it recent, in the last 3 months, 4 months?
I can't give you a month.
So it was repossessed because of non-payment of whatever the note was, because that's the only basis to repossess a car. Okay. Now, you say you're not living in that same apartment anymore. You were living in this 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yeah.
Yes is an answer. And you're no longer living in that apartment.
No.
And what happened to that apartment?
I moved. She moved with me.
Okay. You moved when?
November.
November of 2021.
Yes.
just about the time of all these disputes over wigs. Did your roommate remain in the apartment?
Yes.
Did you have a lease in that apartment?
Yes.
Was your lease over, or did you move out during the lease?
It was over, and I renewed it for my roommate.
Now, the lease was in your name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes is an
ma'am.
answer, and you renewed the lease even though you moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living now?
In Conyers.
What kind of place?
House. And I pay all the bills.
And what does your girlfriend do?
She works.
What does she do?
She does lashes. She does hair. She does nails. She's an entrepreneur.
Does she have a website?
Yes.
Yes. What's the name of her website? You think?
Yeah, I think. I don't be on her. I don't shop with her.
Got it?
Looking.
Did you have a conversation with Miss Taylor about these 5 wigs? Did you have a conversation with her?
Yes.
Do you have a cell phone?
Me? No.
Did you ever have a cell phone?
Yes.
What happened to your cell phone?
I broke it, so I went on another one.
And you didn't get another one?
It have to get sent to the house. I just broke it. Like, I just broke it.
You just broke it?
Yeah.
So
last
you
week.
have a cell phone. Tell me how you broke the cell phone.
I got real angry and I threw it.
You got angry with somebody?
Yes.
And tell me how your girlfriend lost her cell phone.
Oh, she gave it to me.
And when did she lose her cell phone?
She gave me that phone. I bought her another phone. She gave me that
So
phone.
she gave you,
around.
just a second. So she gave you the phone that she had been using,
Yes.
which had Joyce information on it. That was the phone she gave you.
I guess so. I don't know Joyce. I don't know who Joyce is.
Sit down.
Braylon sits.
Ms. Taylor, you want to be in business, you have to pay for what you ordered. It's
Yeah,
absolutely,
okay.
I'm not speaking to you, it's absolutely outrageous that she sent you these wigs, they were delivered to your house, and she not only doesn't have the wig, she doesn't have not only her profit, she doesn't have any money. And you've got a lot of clients that you can't identify, and phones that got lost, and information that you don't have. And information that you don't have, that you don't have. Clients that are no longer clients, that blocked you. I mean, people who block you after you work for them for a year, that means that you're either doing a lousy job.
No, because the way she came at me, I actually chumped them off because I feel like you're messing up my business. So I chumped them off, and I guess she didn't want to reply, and she just blocked me.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff.
Your Honor, I have other text messages. I was out of business for like month and a half.
I have to tell you something. I can't discern whether you lost business or not because of this. I cannot discern that. I can give you back the money that you lost as a result of shipping her 5 wigs and not getting compensated for it.
And I also have court fees, and I ordered a PI as well.
But
That I, just a second.
More people
that
than
I will
just me
hear.
for wigs.
What
You
were
the
your court
scammer.
fees?
I'm not the only person you suing. If I
I'm
pulled
not,
up
nobody,
and bought
nobody,
why wouldn't I
nobody
do that?
is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
𝐂𝐚𝐬 rolls her eyes.
'Cause it's
Court fees.
like...
And I also have my incident report that day.
Just a second. Would you please just give me the court fees? You said you had court fees and you hired an investigator.
Yes, I did.
And I'd like to see that invoice, because that's you're entitled to.
I have the text messages of my PI.
Fatoumata hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is that you're handing
that was
me. I
just-
asked you what the court fees were.
I have my PI phone number.
You have nothing.
I didn't print out my court fees, but I do have my more.
Do you have an invoice from the investigator that you say that you hired?
Yes.
And the work that they
Yes,
did?
I have all the messages.
I don't want messages. I need an invoice, a payment.
I did a payment, $400, and we have the text message trying to find her everything.
Can I see it, please?
Fatoumata hands her phone to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews a string of text messages.
It was $250 for skip tracing and $150 for service.
My sales went down.
Just a second. Did this person serve her?
Yes, they did.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff. That's it. We're
This
done.
court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, 𝐂𝐚𝐬, then Fatoumata.
I never did it, you know? I just got it sent to my house.
We went through everything. We had to go through birthdays.
It's like saying, oh, I know a friend that they know how to cut hair.
Text messages, everything.
And then you don't like your haircut. What you want me to pay for your haircut? Like, girl.
We literally hawked her down for the information.
She honestly messed up my clientele.
Judy and Sarah.
It would be easy to be forthcoming with me and say, these are the clients who I sold it to. I gave her the information. They were supposed to pay her. whatever, but she didn't.
A lot of running around.
A lot of
circle
running
story.
around, and there's no question that the plaintiff sold her those wigs. She made a markup. She made a 25% markup. That's okay. And I'm certain that she put in the wigs and made her own markup. You know, that's commerce. But this ability to reverse charges on a credit card and to have somebody, and it's usually just a person, we're not talking about a committee or a tribunal that determined whether or not the charge was legitimate, just to reverse it, and then where are you? You're left without your product. Very frustrating.
It's a double-edged sword. It can be very useful. I've had to do that on a few different occasions. And the process is very hidden and sort of behind the curtain. And I fear for people like the plaintiff who run their own business, hardworking people who make the best money on the internet because there's no overhead fee of running a store. But these are some of the risks and things that you have to ensure before you get into business.
Well, too bad. Too bad people don't do the right thing. If they did the right thing, we'd be out of business.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv. Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall are suing their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Case number 2074, Marshall versus Fugate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, you live across the street from Mr. Fugate and his mother.
Yes.
How long have you lived in your house?
22 years.
And Mr. Fugate, how long have you lived in your house?
Your Honor, my mom has lived in the house far longer than I have. She's lived in it since 2008. I moved in 2016.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, this problem that I'm going to try to rectify today deals with parking space.
Yes.
And the parking space is a public parking space, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And it's on the street, and the public parking space happens to be in front of your home.
Yes, ma'am.
You live across the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And the case involves acrimony that has developed because you, Mr. Fugate, would like to keep that spot that's in front of your home free for your mother, who you say for health reasons, it would be more convenient for her to park right in front of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. and Mrs. Marshall sometimes or always park in that spot. That's what the problem is.
Yes.
Okay. And I assume you're going to speak for your husband for now?
I can, yes.
Do you want her to talk for you?
It's fine.
He learns his lessons well. Oh, that's very good. Perfect.
I can speak for myself. If she need to, she can.
Perfect. You've been living there a long time. Did you have any trouble with the Fugate family about this parking space between 2008 and 2016?
No.
So before the son moved in, you had no problem?
That's right.
Had you ever, just a second, had you ever had discussions with Mrs. Fugate about parking in that spot before he came?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Fugate, did you understand what I said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to be very careful in your answer to me.
Yes, ma'am.
You've lived there for a long time.
Yes,
your son didn't move in until 2016. Before your son moved in, did you ever have any communication with Mr. and Mrs. Marshall about parking in front of your house?
Ma'am, she didn't park in front of my house before my son moved in.
Okay, so is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell me what changed after her son moved in?
Okay, where I park at is actually across the street from the Fugates. It's right by my driveway, and I park my Toyota Avalon right beside my driveway, which is the parking spot that Mr. Fugate is causing the problems over.
So it's the parking spot is in front of your house?
No, it's not in front of my house. It's beside my driveway.
But on your side of the house?
That's
on your
correct.
side of the street?
Yes. Correct. No.
Do they have a parking space in front of their house on their side of the street?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever park there?
I have. When they took the parking space I usually park in, I did park across the street.
Okay, so occasionally Either Mr. Fugate, his mother, parks on your side of the street, on a public street, and you'll park in front of their house.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so let me tell you all this. We're going to finish part of the case right now. Too bad. You can park wherever you want on a public street because there are other visitors that come, I assume, for people who live on the block, that they take up parking spaces, and occasionally there aren't other parking spaces. You know, there's no question you would prefer to park on your side of the street, and you would prefer to park on your side of the street. If you can't, you can't. Mr. Fugate, I'm just telling you, just so that you know, you have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, I understand that, Your Honor. I'm not the one that needs to be told that, though.
You have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live, in what state?
Ohio, Cincinnati.
Okay, I've actually been to Cincinnati frequently, but I am certain that there is no regulation in Ohio or any city or town thereof that says, well, you sort of had first dibs on the parking space on the public street that's in front of your house. That's ridiculous.
The best that Cincinnati has, Your Honor, is a 3-day law that if the vehicle doesn't move within 3 days, then it could be towed by the city. But that's the best that they have.
You live across the street from each other. Did either of you ever call the police and say a car has been there for more than 3 days?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who did?
I did, Your Honor.
Why?
Because the spot in question that's directly across the street is actually, it's hindering to the entire flow of the neighborhood and where everybody parks on the street. I served 10 years Army, and I fought for people.
Listen, I don't care if you're a good person, if you're not a good person, if you're a do-gooder, if you're not a do-gooder. It's a public street. And if what you're suggesting to me is they should be nice, it's an older person, and they shouldn't park in that spot, what I'm telling you is I wouldn't start up with anybody by calling the police on a car that especially a car that I knew. I know that it's my neighbor's car. They've been living there for 22 years, relatively peacefully. Relatively peaceful.
It hasn't really been peaceful, Your Honor.
You moved there.
Yes, I did.
They were living there a decade before you moved there. You.
Yes, ma'am.
If it wasn't peaceful, there are options. You're a free person. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I cannot imagine my calling the police on a neighbor's car that was parked in the street. Well, that created problems. Okay, so I see where we're going. We're going to get to this case. Reimbursement for insurance deductible, that's one thing, because you claim that Mr. Fugate damaged your car.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
That was on June the 26th.
Of this year?
Of 21, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have any video evidence of the damage to your car?
No, ma'am. All I have is a picture.
Tell me how he damaged the car. With what did he damage the car?
Okay. He damaged the car with his hand. I'm parking the car.
You mean in front of?
In front of Mrs. Fugate's home.
So on her side of the street?
Yes, ma'am. I exit the car. Mr. Fugate is being erratic.
No, don't tell me what your perception is. Tell me what he did.
He was beating the hood of the car.
He came up to the car and was hitting the top of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I'll see the car and the police report.
Sherry hands a photo and Jeffrey hands a document to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She then reviews the photo of the hood of a car.
See the dent, and that's the hood of the car. Okay.
She reviews the document.
Okay, as this police report says, Mr. Fugate told the police in his narrative that this incident occurred, there was a disagreement over the parking space, and that you struck him with the car, causing minor injury. Okay, because you have a cross complaint for that.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's a simple. June 26th, I see the car was damaged. There's no question it was damaged by somebody pounding on the hood, and I assume that was you.
Ma'am, that's wrong. I did not pound on the hood.
Well, then tell me, Mr. Fugate, how these dents occurred, just the way they look, on the hood of the car.
Your Honor, I have the 911 audio calls of the night, as well as the police report, and I also drew up a diagram where she was originally parked that explains everything. But
okay, so I'd like to see that. Okay.
Ma'am, if I could approach the diagram.
Absolutely. June 26th.
On June 26th, I was talking to my parents when the marshals came home. My car was parked right here, okay? They came home, they blocked their own driveway and parked right up on top of my bumper.
Just a second.
Just
a second. So you, Mr. Fugate, were parked on a public street where you could park on their side of the street, not your side of the street, okay?
Yes, sir.
And they came up blocking their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you see them? Were you in the house watching?
No, I was on my parents' porch.
Okay. So now you're on your parents' porch, they're in their car, and they blocked their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Not a big
So-
ordeal, right?
Not any of your business.
Right. It wasn't, like I said, wasn't a problem to me.
Wasn't any of your business.
Exactly. So
Go ahead.
anyway, I'm talking to my parents on the phone. They're just getting done working. I can hear that the marshals are upset about where I'm parked at on a public street. And I went out to save my parents' spot because I could hear her say, I'm going to teach him a lesson.
So, Mr. Fugate, now, is what you're telling me that that car where you're standing in, you went out to make it so that they could not park on a public street? Is that what you're telling me? The answer is yes.
Yes.
You got off the porch to stand in the street to block them from moving in front of your house because your car was parked on their side of the street.
No, no, Your Honor. No, you got that wrong.
Is that red car yours?
The red car is mine.
It's mine.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just to say, the red car is yours. Listen, I'm not a moron.
I know that.
The white car is the space that you wanted to save for your parents.
Yes, Your Honor. They were on their way home. I was talking
Who
to
gives
them.
a rat's behind where they were?
Caption coming up.
Now you have
This
both
whole
spots.
area was clear, and there is a crossing road that comes all the way through here, and they could have parked.
Who made you the monitor of public parking?
No one.
Who do you think you are to be the monitor of public parking?
Whitney grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jeffrey, Sherry, Joseph, and Jennifer.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall claim their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, owe for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report. Joseph and Jennifer are countersuing for medical bills from an assault.
Now, you went out on a public street to go like this to save a parking space for your parents.
Yes,
that you had no right to do. Let me just understand this. You had no right to go out there. You parked on their side of the street, and then you went outside to save the spot because your parents were on their way home.
Yeah,
Just a second. You have no right to do that. Zero. Don't you understand that?
No, actually, I don't understand that, Your Honor. How do I not have a right to save a spot?
You do not have a right to
my
save a
elderly
public...
parents?
Just a second. You don't have that right, because I'm here to tell you, you don't have a right to save a spot on a public street by standing in the street like this. Don't park here.
And I'm
you
not
have
like this.
I don't care whether you were hopping on one foot and chewing gum. You don't have the right to save a spot, and it makes it twice as obnoxious because you parked on their side of the street. Now, if there was a spot in front of their house that they could park in, and they said, no, I'm going to park in front of the defendant's house, I could say, you know what? That's nasty.
Well, that's
Just that's
the thing, Your
nasty.
Honor.
Now you have
this
both
whole
spots.
area was clear, okay? And there is a crossing road that comes all the way through here, and they could have parked.
Who made you the monitor of public parking?
No one.
Who do you think you are to be the monitor of public parking? Get back.
Yes, sir.
Joseph returns to the defendant's table.
Okay, so now, Mr. Monitor of Public Parking, you come out and you're standing in the street to save the spot. She comes around to park there, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Well, she came around to park there, and then she hit me with her car.
Just a second. She came around to park there, and you were standing in the street.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, pay careful attention. Where did she hit you in the car before you moved?
She hit me in the knee.
In the knee. And so you jumped out of the way. No.
I fell on her car. I guess I was talking on the phone, and when she hit me in the knee, I fell on her car.
Baloney. That's not what this is. What was the damage to your car?
The damage.
That's baloney. That didn't happen because your elbow went on her car. Sir, if she hit you on the knee, she hit you on the knee with the front of her car, which is possible. By the way, you have medical records to show me?
I do.
I'd like to see them. The record should reflect that they closed this case, made no arrests in this case, and probably told everybody to behave themselves, which is what I'm doing.
I apologize.
Kevin brings a document to Judy.
Okay. What is this?
That is the ambulance bill for...
I want to see a medical record. I don't care if you went in an ambulance. I want to see what the doctor reported about your injury. Where is that?
I was unable to get that.
Well, that's too bad. Then I'm not interested in this. That's nonsense. Okay, how much did it cost to fix your car?
Here we are. Thank you.
Sherry hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
And you had a $500 deductible?
Yes, ma'am.
$500 so far for the plaintiff. The counterclaim that talks about medical bills for this is dismissed. Okay, filing a false police report.
Yes, ma'am.
And the false police report you're talking about is what?
Mrs. Fieldgate initiated a confrontation with me.
When?
December the 22nd. I'm on my way to my vehicle. Mrs. Fieldgate is parked maybe like 10 feet behind me.
Put up the diagram again, please. Okay, just go over to the board. This is a different date, but I just want you to show me where she was and where you were.
Okay. Mrs. Fieldgate was parked right about here.
She parked right about there, which is opposite your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'm parked here.
In front of her house?
Correct.
Okay, so you're both on the same side of the street, which is the defendant's side of the street. You're parked across the street from your house.
That's correct.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
What happened?
And Mrs. Fieldgate, she comes out of her car, she's walking towards me, she's upset, she's yelling, and I don't remember all of the words that she was saying, but it was about parking. She was telling me I couldn't park where I was parked at. She's yelling, she's screaming, I'm trying to reason with her.
Could you step back there?
Yes. I'm trying to reason with Miss Fieldgate. I'm telling her it's a public street and I can park there. She's yelling and screaming and telling me that I can't. We're standing in front of one another. She's still yelling and screaming. I'm trying to reason with her. Next thing I know, she hits me on the hand. My reflex, I pushed her back. Next thing I know, she's still standing after I pushed. Next thing I know, I guess she thought about it, and then she made herself fall on the ground.
Well, I don't know whether she did or not. Somebody said with regard to this that there's a video of this. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It was dismissed in court. It wasn't showed in court.
I don't care whether it's shown in court or not. I would like to see, because I read here that there is a security video of what happened on. If it's a video, you don't have to go up there, Ms. Fugate, because I can actually see it myself. So now, those are the two cars parked on the same side of the street, and they are parked on the defendant's side of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And your car is the...
Black car.
Your car is the black car, their car is the red car.
That's correct.
And that's Miss Fugate getting out of her car. Okay,
Yes,
now I'd like to see the video.
A black SUV inches forward.
She started to move up,
Jennifer returns to her car.
so I thought I'd move my car a little closer.
Shh! Don't speak.
As Sherry steps from her SUV, Jennifer walks toward her. They point and gesture at each other. The two women come face to face. Jennifer jabs at Sherry's hand. Sherry shoves her to the ground.
That's when she...
Shh! Okay, I'm going to see that again, please. And I'd like you to do it slowly at some point when they're right in each other's faces and getting very nasty.
Slow motion footage of Jennifer jabbing at Sherry's hand, then of Sherry shoving her. Jennifer stumbles backward, then trips over the curb and falls.
Oh, no, Miss Marshall, you can't do that.
It wasn't my intention.
Oh, just a second. Oh, it was absolutely your intention.
No,
it was absolutely your intention, and there was, listen, you know, I'm an equal opportunity abuser. You can't do that. You can't do what I just saw. What I just saw is unreasonable behavior and totally inconsistent to being maybe, which I didn't see, slapped on the hand.
Right.
Maybe slapped on the hand. I didn't see it, but I did see you give her a substantial shove, and she is a person who has a certain infirmity, and she fell. And if she fell, and if she was injured, you're responsible. That's it.
Caption coming up.
I saw you give her a shove that didn't, as you say, she decided to fall back down. No, madam. You hit her with such force that she fell backward. You say no, I say yes. I'm a judge, I win.
Sherry nods. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jeffrey, Sherry, Joseph, and Jennifer.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall have accused their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, of damaging their car. Jennifer claims she was assaulted by Sherry over a parking spot.
Now, I saw the video. I don't have to have your mother testify. You should have not created an incident, Mrs. Fugate.
I did.
Yes, no, yes, just a second. Yes, you did.
I was walking toward the car, and I was to go to my car and pull up because she was starting to pull her car up. And if you look, she started to pull her car up first. And then when she come around the car, she's holding her cell phone yelling, I got you on recording. I'm recording you because I'm going to show you a hate crime. Excuse me.
Just a second. Part of the problem is you and your son have to understand that you have no right to the parking spaces that are on a public street, just a sec, in front of your house. And your son clearly is a provocateur in this because he parks his car on their side of the street. I'm not getting, so what I'm doing is I am dissecting this case. If I have two unreasonable people, they're going to continue to make each other's lives miserable, and I can't control that. All I can do is hear each individual side. So, Mrs. Fugate, I have already said that Miss Marshall had no right, based upon what I saw, to push you with such force that you fell. I would like to see the medical report after the incident of December 22nd. May I see it, Kevin?
I was in the ER.
Okay.
And I had to wear a brace for a month on my arm and shoulder.
Did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
I paid $900 because it was Christmas holidays.
All I want to know is, did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And yes, I had.
Shh. What is this?
It's
I had to have a woman come in and clean my house.
I don't care about that.
That was out of.
I don't care about that. Return that to her. That's a cleaning bill for somebody to come in and clean. Let her clean. Okay. So, filing a false police report and false arrest. Who was arrested?
I was.
And you were arrested, in my judgment, legitimately, because of based upon what I saw. So I'm dismissing.
That is not why they arrested me.
Oh, okay. So that is not the reason that you were arrested, was not this.
The reason why I was arrested is because when she hit me and when I pushed her back, when they asked me what happened, I did not tell them that she had struck me.
Miss Marshall, is the reason you were arrested based upon the occurrence of December 22nd? That's easy.
Yes, it was.
Well, that's what I said. So don't say no. The reason you were arrested and claim falsely is as a result of the December 22nd incident.
But I was cleared.
I don't care whether you were cleared or not. I didn't clear you. The burden of proof in a criminal case is proof by beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? That is not the burden of proof in a civil proceeding. It's a much lower standard. I looked at that video. I believe that your conduct was unconscionable.
And not hers. You didn't see.
I think that her behavior was I think that her behavior was stupid. I don't.
Yeah.
Just a second. I don't see her hitting you. I see you walking away, Miss Marshall. I see you walking away, but I saw you give her a shove that, as you say, she decided to fall back down. No, madam. You hit her with such force that she fell backward. You say no, I say yes. I'm a judge, I win. So you, on your case, I said, absolutely, I don't believe him. I don't believe that the damage to your car resulted from his putting his elbow on it. I told him, you have absolutely no right to save a space for your parents. I'm awarding...
The case is malicious. Okay. From what you saw him do, that's what she did. She installed a camera, set me up, manured me in front of the camera. She knew what she was doing when she hit me on the hand.
Okay, very...
Oh, she knew.
Just a second. Just a second.
All of it is
Just
malicious.
a second. It's not your judgment that I'm concerned about, madam. I'm telling you, based upon what I saw, I'm awarding Mrs. Fugate, who I think she and her son both have to understand what a public street is. I'm awarding her $2,000 on her counterclaim for her injuries as a result of the assault. I'm dismissing part of your claim for false arrest. I awarded you the $500 that you asked for your deductible. You got your $500. It's coming off the $2,000 that I've awarded Mrs. Fugate for her injuries, judgment on the counterclaim for $1,500. Thank you very much. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Sherry, then Jennifer.
I wouldn't have never maliciously pushed anybody.
I've been trying to tell this story forever.
I didn't know what else she was gonna do. I was trying to protect myself.
It really does harden me that there are people out there that could go and just do this.
I have always been friendly. I never bother anyone. They keep bothering us.
We're really hoping that this does resolve the issue.
I just want them to leave us alone.
Bring them to Judy Justice.
Because she really does care.
Sarah and Judy.
You want to know how I know that the plaintiff wasn't being truthful when she said that I wasn't being malicious, it was an accident, I did not push her that hard? If that had happened to me and I was just trying to get someone away from me, and that reaction from the defendant of falling back, I thought she almost cracked her head on the curb. I would have said, I'm so sorry, oh my goodness, I would have gone down to her, I didn't mean to push you, let me help you up. The plaintiff just walked right back to her car, and you could see her face almost had a smirk on it, just walked right back to her car like she didn't even care. And that, to me, says you knew exactly what you were doing when you put your hands on that woman.
Yeah, and I didn't see a slap.
It could have happened.
I said it could have happened. It could have happened. I just didn't see it.
That reaction was
an
above and beyond.
overreaction.
Of course.
Yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv. Her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, for travel costs and a loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2102, Peterson versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Joy.
Miss Peterson, you and Mr. Stewart met online?
Yes.
You met Mr. Stewart, and according to your complaint, a romance developed, and there were two things that you believe, now that the romance is over, that he owes you. One of them is a loan that you made to him for $1,000. Now, Mr. Stewart does not deny that you gave him $1,000, correct?
No, ma'am.
Your defense is that it was a gift.
Correct.
And not made as a loan. Okay. On what date did you and Miss Peterson start to date?
We never dated. We actually wasn't through no dating site. Just somehow, coincidence, we came through.
Did you see her?
I met her once in person.
When?
When she paid for a hotel for my birthday.
Give me the date.
January 30th.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So you met for the first time in January of 2022. Tell me about the $1,000. If you're playing with your papers, you're not going to hear where we're going. Okay.
The $1,000 at that time, I was been struggling with heart disease, which I just got out the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So financially, my dealership was a little bit under the burden. So I asked her if she would help me.
And when did you ask her? Was that in January?
No, ma'am. That's a couple months later.
All right. So that would be in March.
Yeah.
And the only time that you ever met her was in January.
I met her once, other than that, when she gave me the money. Other than that, it was just normally her texting me, how you doing? Do you want to meet up?
Okay. So you met personally twice.
Correct.
And after January, you didn't see each other personally, just by messages. And that's when you asked her for money. And you were going to tell me why in March you asked her for money. I understand that you just recently came out of the hospital, and while I'm happy to see you looking well and healthy, it's really irrelevant to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so why did you ask her for $1,000?
Because she offered to help me.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless they know that you need help.
Well, it's in writing.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless you let them know that you need help.
I was kind of life coaching her. We both was going back and forth. We had an open line of communication, so I kind of got comfortable to ask. So I see what you're saying.
Got comfortable to ask?
She already gave me money before that $1,000. That's why I was comfortable.
Just a second. I'm talking about the loan.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me, since you acknowledge that she gave you the money, tell me why you needed it.
Well, I needed it because I paid for the trip, which was $21.80, which she gave me $2,000 plus $160 more for luggage. Came to just shy of $2,400.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Well, she's already came to me and gave me money for us to take this little trip together.
What does that have to do with this $1,000? That's not what I'm talking about.
Because she was supposed to come and reimburse some of the money because I paid already into the trip. So I was asking her for money.
Am I crazy? Did he start to talk about his business needing money? He has a used car business.
Yes.
Really, before you come on a program like this, you should really watch so that you would know that one of my favorite sayings is, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory, especially if you're smart. Now, if you're not so smart, and within 3 minutes you tell 2 different stories, that, Mr. Stewart, is a phrase that you should learn to live by. If you tell the truth, you don't need a good memory.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, that's only because you wouldn't know the truth, because you have been introduced to the truth.
He says, the $1,000 at that time, I was struggling with heart disease, which I just got out of the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So actually, my dealership is a little bit under the burden, so I asked her if she would help me.
So you remember saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's different from she was paying me back. You just have to acknowledge that's different. Okay, and let me tell you what you swore to in your answer. She offered to help me catch up on my child support.
On a phone conversation, yes.
I just asked you one simple question, sir. You acknowledged she gave you $1,000. What was it for? So now I have 3 reasons. 1, your car dealership was a little bit of a burden. 2, she was returning your money to you. And 3, you were catching up on your child support. Those are the 3 things that I have in front of me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Whichever one you would like, ma'am.
So far it's $1,000 for the plaintiff. Now, whether it was for school or whether it was for your children's support, she's not responsible for your children's support. You're responsible for your children's support. Have you ever met his children?
No.
She doesn't even know your children.
No.
Do you have a child support order?
No. She asked me to marry her, though.
Just a sec. I asked you a question,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
her. Do you have children? The answer is
yes. I have children, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Caption coming up.
This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This is
saying.
not a dance.
Yes, ma'am.
You lead, I lead, I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
Later.
You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I am a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent.
A woman grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Joy and James.
Joy Peterson claims her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, owes for travel costs and a loan.
Now, the children do not live with you.
They're above age. Yes, ma'am.
When you swore in your answer that you had gotten behind in your child support order, what child support order was that?
It's the last child because I got behind because I was out of work. So they're above age, but I owe a little arrears.
Okay, so that's the child support that you were behind. Had you been noticed to come to court on those arrears?
I've never been in contempt, no, ma'am. I've always kept a good standings with them.
Okay, but you're behind now.
Yes, ma'am.
You were behind then in March.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you knew you were behind because?
I was on bed rest for 5 months due to a knee surgery and some heart issues.
Okay, did you request that your child support order that was on arrears only be stayed while you weren't working?
I got a new caseworker who wasn't willing to work with me at that time. So.
Okay, so there was difficulty. Your caseworker was involved in this child support order. That sounds better. And the child support order was in favor of the state?
I don't owe the state no money. I paid all fees off with them. I just owe the back child support.
To the mother of the children?
Yes.
Okay, $1,000. Now, I'm going to come to you. According to you, you gave the defendant $2,000 to buy travel tickets for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
I gave him money in March.
At the same time that you gave him the $1,000?
No, ma'am. That was in April.
Show me proof of that. And I want to see $2,000 taken out from someplace for him to pay for these tickets. And they were tickets for you to go from where you live, which is where?
Springfield, Ohio.
To Miami.
Yes, ma'am.
The $2,000 was in March. What were you going to do in March?
In March, I gave him the $2,000 to purchase tickets because I asked him, can you get discounts for us to go to Miami because I was going to have surgery. So he told me yes, sure. So I gave him the $2,000 for that.
That's not.
Then he said, well, that's going to be more than that. I said, well, that's all I have for the tickets for me and my daughters. He said he wanted to go, so he was planning on going.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date did she give you the $2,000 to buy the tickets?
It was early March. She could.
Yeah, March, looks like March 25th. She gave you $2,000. And when were you supposed to go to Miami?
We were supposed to go July 4th, and she.
Okay, just a second. You're supposed to go in July. So you're talking about 4 months later.
Yeah, she canceled the trip.
Okay. When did she cancel the trip?
She canceled the trip about a month later.
So she canceled the trip in April?
Yeah, and it was a third party, so it's non-refundable.
I don't know that at all.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just a second. So you're going to have to show me.
I didn't borrow it.
You borrowed the $1,000. I didn't say you borrowed this $2,000. She gave you money for a specific purpose.
Right, she wanted.
Don't speak. She gave you money for a specific purpose to purchase airline tickets.
For us.
Which you... I don't give a rat's behind for who. She gave you money to purchase.
As I did.
Airline tickets.
As I did.
This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This
saying
is not you lead, I lead, you. I always lead.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
She gave you $2,000 to buy tickets. That you acknowledge. The trip was canceled 3 months before the trip. Now, you say they were non-refundable tickets.
Yes, ma'am.
Show me. I just want to see where you tried to get either a refund or a credit 3 months. And I don't speak. You have to show me, because you just said the tickets were non-refundable tickets, and I could neither get money back for them when she canceled it or a credit. And I said, in all that paperwork, show me.
It's just public knowledge on their website. I apologize, I do not have it.
It's not public knowledge on any website. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. $1,000 loan, $2,000 for the tickets. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
Well,
out!
This court is adjourned.
Out!
She wanted to go on a vacation.
Taking advantage of me.
She was being a little aggressive.
Don't even look that way.
Now, hopefully, we can just move on with our lives.
Sarah.
I think we should print that on cards to hand out to people as they leave here. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That defendant, in the first 15 seconds, told 3 different stories about the same $1,000. Reminded me of a toddler when you ask if they had cookies and it's all over their mouth and they say, no, I didn't have chocolate, I didn't have candy. 15 seconds, 3 different stories. So if you tell the truth,
you don't need a good memory.
Not at all.
Case 2158, Smith versus Crosley. All parties, please step forward.
Justin Smith is suing his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crosley, for an unpaid loan.
Miss Crosley, I'm going to start with you. You and Mr. Smith were in a romantic relationship for a period of time.
Yes.
From when to when?
I want to say it was about a year before my son was born. My son was born February 11th, 2019, and our relationship ended about 4 or 5 months after he was born.
And after you separated, according to what I read, you sort of remained friends.
Yes.
Great. You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent. And this was after you had already been separated for a long period of time. And at some point, what I'm piecing together is you discussed your financial circumstances with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And one of your options was to seek protection in bankruptcy.
Correct.
And Mr. Smith thought that that was a bad idea.
Yes.
So he suggested that you take out a loan, consolidate all this debt, which was on, I assume, on credit cards with very high interest. And since he had credit, he would take out the loan and you would pay that loan off, which was manageable every month. Is that generally what this is about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Caption, coming up.
His behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw.
I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Justin and Jessica.
Justin Smith claims his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crossley, owes for an unpaid loan.
Mr. Smith did take out that loan, month and year.
March of 2022, this year.
What were the payments each month, starting in March or April, principal and interest?
He had told me that it was $500.
Told you they were $500. He took out that loan, and am I correct, Ms. Crossley, that you paid off your credit card debt?
Yes.
And you paid off your debt with the loan that he took out?
Yes.
And you did, in fact, create a situation where the money, because you were employed, would come out directly from your bank account to go to pay off the loan to his bank account.
Yes.
And you did that in what month?
That was started, I believe, at the end of April or beginning of May.
And how many such payments did you make?
Biweekly payments, I believe I made about 6.
Thereby acknowledging that this was a loan. At some point, you stopped making the payments. What month did you stop making the payments?
In July of this year.
Why?
So I had started seeing my current boyfriend.
This is not a social show. Just tell me why.
So I had to take a day off of work to file for an order of protection.
Why did you have to take a day off from work to file for an order of protection?
Because I was advised to by a police officer I spoke to.
Okay. And I assume against him?
Yes.
Okay. Give me the incident.
Okay. So in July, when I started seeing my current boyfriend, Justin had expressed that he wanted us to get back together, and I had told him no, that was not going to happen. And then his behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw. And then there was an incident on July 19th where I had allowed his mother to take my son to a play, and she was supposed to drop him off back to me. And instead of dropping him back off to me, she had dropped him off with his father at his work. And then I got a call from Justin yelling, saying, "Where are you? What are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm on my way back home. Your mom's supposed to drop off Braden." He's like, "I have Braden. I'll meet you at your house." So I said, okay. We got to outside my house, and then he pulled up next to me and then started screaming out of the car, like, "Where were you? What were you doing?" I was like, "I was spending time with Anthony, my boyfriend." And he's like, "I'm taking Braden. I'm not going to give him back to you." And my son's crying in the back seat. And I said, "No, you give him back to me. It is my day to have him." And he drove away. He later called me and said I could meet them at Dairy Queen. So I met them there. I got out of the car. I went up to my son. And as I was getting him in the car, Justin had walked up to my car and started yelling and swearing at me. And as me and my son started driving off, he threw a milkshake at my car, which scared me and my son very much.
Okay, good. And you filed for an order of protection. You had a trial on the order of protection, yes. And the judge dismissed your order of protection.
Yes.
After the trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
So when I had lost my job.
You lost your job when?
The next day. The incident happened on the 19th. I had to take the 20th off to file for the order of protection. The 21st, I was let go.
Oh, that had nothing to do with you being let go. Nothing. I just want to know why you stopped paying on the loan. You stopped paying on the loan because you lost your job? Are you working now?
Yes, I just started working.
Well, did you start paying him back?
No. So
why?
Also in July, when all these incidents happened, Justin had stopped paying for daycare, which was our agreed upon child support payment. We don't have a court order for child support, but he had been paying all of daycare. I cover all of his other finances.
So that was an agreement that you had, that he would pay for daycare?
Yes.
Okay. And he stopped paying in July?
Yes. He started only paying half of daycare.
Okay. So let's go back. He started paying for half?
Yes.
How much was he supposed to pay per month?
$560 was the full amount of daycare each month.
Okay. And he had been paying that. In July, he cut it down to?
To $270, I believe.
80.
Okay, so he wasn't completely not paying. He was paying part of it.
Correct.
Tell me why you cut the payments in half, because you have a counterclaim for that.
Yeah. So in July, we started a custody case for full custody of our son.
You're talking in July. Who started the custody case?
I did, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you retain a lawyer?
I did.
Is that case still ongoing?
It is.
Well, then I'm not entertaining anything about the daycare because you have that case in family court. The court there will make a determination as far as future child support and whether or not this daycare should have been paid. So you have no reason for not paying the loan?
I was planning on filing bankruptcy.
Okay, but you didn't. You didn't file for bankruptcy. You did the smart thing. How much is left on the loan?
It's in excess of $12,000 or $11,000.
What interest rate is on that loan, by the way?
36%, I believe. Current balance as of November 30th, $12,631.
How is a 30% loan better than her credit cards?
She had some loans in excess of 800%.
From whom?
Or over 500%. These were online lenders.
Oh, wow. Okay, you have a counterclaim. Harassment, daycare costs is out. Lost wages because you say you had to take a day off to file a protective order and you were fired? Nonsense. Harassment, let's hear it. And don't go back to anything that you told the judge during the hearing that you had where he dismissed your application for an order of protection.
Okay, well, that order of protection.
Okay,
that was.
They're just shh. Well, if that's the testimony, it's already been adjudicated. A judge, using the same measure of proof that I would use, dismissed your case. So I'm not relitigating that case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I believe he was angry that I started a relationship with somebody.
I think the restraining order was part of her defense as to why she didn't want to pay me back anymore.
I was ready to file bankruptcy, and he had offered to take it out for me.
You know, at the end of the day, the loan is still agreed upon and still needs to be repaid.
Sarah.
I think that that's a good lesson, that you can't use the court systems and restraining orders to get out of a loan that you have really no excuse for not paying except for you lost your job. And I just think it's tricky. I think that a lot of defendants come in here and think that they can just say, I didn't have the money and so I don't have to pay it. But that's not the case.
What's most interesting to me is these 800% or 500% or 100% interest-bearing loans.
I know, it's something.
Where did that come from?
It's something I've seen recently in the past couple of years. It seems like every online shopping venue now has some form of loan payment or loan offering or sign up for our loan program. And I'd never seen that before. And if you don't read the fine print, you could get stuck in, just like the defendant here, with a lot of those high interest loans.
Yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice?
Welcome to PUBG Mobile.
Team match, let's go.
For the first time. Let's go.